up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive, and save it. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong.
Oh, look at me. I'm retarded. I'm a globe.
The whole system is designed to disconnect you from your intuition. Why? Disconnected people are easy to manipulate. Everything from sunscreen to politics to the food industry. It's all designed to disconnect and manipulate you. We are in the middle of a war right now, but it's not a traditional war. It's a war on consciousness. It's a war on freedom. This is the time to listen, not to the news. No, your intuition, your gut, your heart. Love is the greatest weapon against darkness. How do you love more? You begin by loving yourself. How do you love yourself? You listen to the messages your body is telling you.
I'm scared, Dad.
Do you trust me, son?
Yes.
Come on, son. Rule number 1, never trust anybody.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sovereign Soul Unchained Mind, coming to you 250 miles above your imagination in the International Fake Station. I'm up here with my good friend and co-pilot, Something Wong. He's always happy. Nothing is ever wrong. And he makes sure that we have bowls packed and we fly level across this beautiful plane. I'm joined tonight by Chicago Cubby Bears here. Good to see you, Chad. How are you doing tonight?
Good. Good to see you too.
Good.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this show.
Holy shit. Was that something else or what, man?
That was interesting. Got the town buzzing.
Man, I'll tell you, there's even some people that had me going for a little bit. I'm like, hold on a second, man. This
It was
is too
wild,
good,
man.
It'd be interesting. I'd like to know how that was done,
Me too.
outside of it being the real dude. Because, I mean, his answers were like spot on, just like Trump would answer,
And his mannerisms and everything, the charm. That's the thing about it too. Like, even despite what it is, whatever you think it is, like the charm and the charisma that he has really draws you in. That's that secret power, the comedy and everything, that it just really draws you in. I mean, if that had been like Sleepy Joe or Camilla, that wouldn't have been anywhere as interesting.
No, not a bit. That was really, I got a lot. I clipped that out, and I put it up as a comment, or as a standalone video.
Right.
And I think we got like 450 views on it so far. Not bad.
Yeah.
But I thought, the comments are what I was looking at. People are like, is that really him? And shit like that. And I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
Other people, I think Pebbles, I don't know if Pebbles is here right now yet. Pebbles said She says, I hate this kind of suspense. When is it going to be revealed who it is? And I'm like,
Right.
and I'm getting the impression it's like, no, I did not set that up.
Right.
I have no idea who the hell that was.
I was just thinking like the whole time I was thinking it was like a real person, but like AI generated voice or something, on top of it. I don't know. I have no idea what it is. Obviously.
Like deep fake or something, right?
Yeah, right. And
But
that's the scary part about
know the syntax. You'd have to know the syntax, the words that Donald Trump uses. That certain, and he's got that certain inflection of hyperbole that he throws into the middle of it too, Yeah. And I don't know, it was expertly done. Whoever did it or however it was done, it was fantastic. Outside of maybe it was him, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the mystery of it all.
Maybe he wants to make me head of MIFA. Make Earth flat again.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I was looking at I was trying to look for like a channel related to it, or related to the profile or whatever. I couldn't really find anything.
No.
Outside the real one, but yeah.
There wasn't I don't think there is one.
And I gotta apologize to chat. So I'm on my iPad. I don't really, when I'm up here, I don't really get to talk, but I wish that I could have like looked and see if anybody else had any questions. But in the moment, I was like, well, if this is my one chance, I just want to ask him whatever. But
right.
Well,
Yeah,
so
they look too. What about you, Porter?
Look, I don't know. That's questionable. I mean, I was looking for, me and Pebbles both were analyzing it. And who's to say it's just not like somebody that's the president that may get on and just go out and talk to these different, profiles and stuff. You can't never tell. I listened to the nuances about what he would say in comparison to all the years I've heard him talk, and it's really convincing, brother.
Sure, I know. Yeah. Well, that kind of occurred to me too, is because Harry S. Truman, he would ditch his security team and just like go for a walk, and he might just go to the barber shop and just start talking to people while he's in there getting a haircut or something, and he was known for doing that, going out and just talking to the regular people, and not always behind a podium.
He was so quick with it, your answers, and he kept to a non-biased kind of format, and just was equal about things, and it was pretty. I don't know.
Yeah, he did the way.
Yeah, and the thing is that I was talking to my wife about this, and hell, she answered up before I even did, before I even said anything, because I says, if it was the real Donald Trump at all, do you think I would talk any different to him? And she goes, no.
Right.
And that's how it is, because he's just another dude, as far as I'm concerned. Your money and your fame and all that bullshit don't mean nothing to me.
And that's why I wanted to get real questions. I wanted to ask him real things that nobody else ain't gonna see on the news.
That's right. Y'all both were I was dumping the questions out. I want to commend you on that. Awesome. Like you was putting it to the forefront, both you and Saab. Saab was just like, what?
Saab was debating them. It was great.
I was like, man, what are you doing? Let's make, you want to build a city up and make it a beautiful place and everything. Well, let's start with these fucking places that burnt down in North Carolina and these people up there, right here in our own backyard, You're worried about a little sandbox over there. You have to clean all the turds out first. And I mean, the munitions and all that bullshit, man, come on. Why don't you have the people that did that shit go pick it up, Hey, what's up, fellas?
Hey.
I was watching his interview a little bit ago with Brett Baer, and he was saying a whole lot of similar things that he was saying last night on the stream. It was kind of crazy. Like he kept bringing up IQ and Elon and all the things that we were talking about, and I was kind of dissecting that between that and having whatever last night. But
that's right.
I just can't look at it the same way anymore when I see him now.
Yeah, no doubt, right? And I'm like halfway going, is the Secret Service going to pull up, and check me out or whatever the hell is going on,
You're going to get audited by Doge.
Yeah, no shit.
It wasn't him. He was good at it.
I probably look like a freaking stereotypical terrorist from, if you could see what I'm looking at right here, I've got military compasses, and I've got, a pistol over here on the counter, and I've got an AR over here propped up against the desk and shit, and it's got a 60 round mag in it. It's like, You know, you guys don't see all that, but this is all right here, you know, and it's all like somebody come in on my ass and be like, what the fuck? You know?
Yeah.
We have at the FBI your counterpart Cheech, and we've been asking him questions about you, John.
That's
He's
right.
been giving us all the deets.
That's it. He gave you up, brother. He gave you up. No shit. And that was funny when they threw that Chong thing at me. They took it like it was an insult, and I like Tommy Chong. I don't like taking it. I looked at it like, well, thanks.
I know. I seen him a long time ago. When I was down in Texas in the military, I went to a concert. It was so redneck. It was like Rat and CCR revived, not the original. But anyway, Tommy Chong was doing comedy in between sets. Man, that guy was so freaking hot. He was like this close to the microphone, and he kept like hitting the microphone when he was talking. But he's a blast.
I was in Vegas, and I happened to be wearing a jean jacket, and I had a bandana around my head. My glasses at the time were JLs. So
Wow.
this is like back around 2015, 2016, around in there, maybe 2017. And of course, they're the auto shade, you know, so they, as soon as you get out in the sunlight, they darken. And so I'm out there, I got my, you know, beard like this, mustache and shit. These dudes come up and go, look, it's Tommy Chong. Here, can we get a picture with you? And I'm like, I'm not Tommy Chong. They're like, fuck you. Yes, you are, man. Don't touch us. And I'm like, oh my God. They was, you know, they'd had a little bit to drink too, but I was like, okay, whatever. Yeah, take some pictures, you know. I'm like,
Pretty cool.
whatever makes you happy. But yeah, I mean, and that's why, ooh, this Chong looking motherfucker. I'm like, well, thank you. You know, I always like, he was always my favorite of the two, anyways, you know.
Mexican Americans.
Look at here, we've got already 85 people watching so far. We're just getting rolling here.
Yeah, that was a good subject that was on last night too. Besides,
yes, and I watched a few more my lunch breaks today.
Yeah, I did.
Man, it's just this shit is just so amazing. Let me give a shout out to the people in the chat here, and then we'll kind of get started in this. It says Cheech is a cop. Okay, no, he's just he's a snitch. Apparently. Let's see. Unindoctrinated's here with us tonight. We got Eugene, Old No More, Old Me No More. Okay, I got you. Witchy poo. Yeah, right. That's what I was thinking right off the bat. And she claimed she was going to put some kind of a spell on me or some shit too.
Snitchy poo.
Snitchy poo, right? But see, that's what I'm saying. That's that club. That's that club.
Yeah.
And it's the same characters. And there was all like the head people at the Flat Earth Conference in Vegas. And, you know, and I'm like, wait a second. It's like, they're like this little club.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wanted to go to one of those, but now I'm reevaluating that whole situation these days. But
I enjoyed the people that I met that I interact with on here and have talked to, you know, in chat and shit like that. And that watch my show that more than anything while I was there. You know, really, I got to say that was one of the best. Going down to the campground and playing guitar with a bunch of guys. That was a lot of fun, you know, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
More so than, and meeting David Murphy. That was neat. Allegedly, Dave.
Allegedly.
Yeah, he was pretty cool to talk to. We were talking about languages and
and there's a lot of good people that go there. I didn't want to blanket everybody under it, but
I enjoyed my time there. Yeah, absolutely. We got Cylon Killers with us here tonight. Eugene. Who else we got? Ryan S. Ryan. Cookie Monster. Make Stupid People Famous. Sarah G. Flat Earth New Zealand. Good to see you again. Let's see. Joyce B's with us here again tonight. We also have Sarah G. Are you guys? Oh, no. It's a G and a B. Sav has been playing with his bong pipe before he starts.
There's another one. You got to smoke a bong with the president. Who gets to say that?
No doubt. Well, wait a second. I lit a joint off the eternal flame at the Kennedy grave.
Oh, well, hey.
So
which one's a higher honor?
What?
Yeah, no doubt, right?
What'd you do?
I was in high school.
Quiet, they're listening.
That's a trip.
Oh, shout out to my agent.
Yeah,
Really?
Couple said that's one you share with the grandkids someday.
Oh yeah, absolutely. See, That's what freedom is, bitch. You know?
That's right.
Start as Freedom City.
Oh, Lord. Oh, there's Schneider's with us here, too. Let's see here. Zane. Boy, we got a bunch of good people here with us tonight. If I miss you, I'll probably pick up on you somewhere along the line here. Listen, another curious thing about this, man, all these heads and hands cut off of these statues and shit. What were they depicting? Were they the elongated heads, like the elongated skulls, like we found in Paracas and whatnot? Were they the 6 fingers, or were they holding something of significance that they don't want us to know about? I mean, you can tell. I mean, 1 or 2 of the statues having their heads or their faces fucked up and their hands missing. That's one thing, right? But all of them,
Yeah.
you know, and it's you can tell it's purposeful because the rest of it's fine. The rest of it's fine, but it's just those features that they want to destroy off there, and you have to wonder why.
Right.
You know, I don't know. And you know, whatever they tell us is a bunch of bullshit. They always bring out some dusty old man with a bunch of letters after his name and shit. And he'll sit there and tell you, well, around the 3rd or 2nd century BC, we know that, you know, how the fuck do you know?
That's right.
That's what I want to know. Where you know this shit? You mean you get this storyline worked up and that's what you're going to feed me?
Yeah.
You know, I can make up a story too, you know?
I was checking out the one last night about the Necropolis. I think he just did that one about, put that one out. But that was pretty interesting, you know, with all the tunnels and.
Yeah, he's got there's like 6 of them he's done now, I think, on the Necropolises. And that's amazing too, because I have to wonder where did all these people really come from?
Yeah.
That's a lot of bones.
I know.
And the effort involved with putting them in the architectural designs and in the geometric patterns and everything, the sacred geometry that's done with them. You know, you don't just do that because you're bored on your lunch break or some shit while you're making tunnels. I mean, where did the frick did these bones actually come from? That's what you have to ask yourself. And it's like, were they like victims of some kind of a catastrophe or some kind of perhaps a genocide of sorts?
I got a weird feeling.
So I think that some of these wars that they start have a lot to do with why they're, you know, the destruction of a lot of this stuff too, all on purpose.
Maybe they're still making those catacombs, right? Think about this, you know, like I've said before, you don't ever see, we know there's a vast tunnel network under the ground. This is just a given. All right.
Yeah.
Who's to say that these cemeteries aren't setting up over top of these types of things, right?
Yeah.
And then they put somebody in the ground and all they do is after you bury them up, they just open it up from the bottom and bring them on the rest of the way through. And they're making more bones or whatever, you know, because you never see any, you can look any city newspaper and there's a section in there called the obituaries, right? And so there's a shitload of people dying like every week, every day. There's people are dying. And a certain percent of them, you know, I would say, let's be liberal and say that half of them get cremated. Okay. And the other ones are opting for burial.
Right.
That's still a lot of bodies to be putting in the ground. How come you don't ever see any new fucking cemeteries opening up anywhere?
Yeah.
And you got to think about this. All right. So your grandma and grandfather, okay, you've probably been to their grave site if they're dead, right? You've probably been to their grave site. How about your great grandparents? You ever bother checking that one? How about your great-great-grandparents? You ever bother checking that one, going, hanging out, saying, hey, oh, here's some flowers and whatnot? No, nobody does. Nobody
not my
does.
Great, but I have my great. But yeah.
Yeah, unless you're like doing genealogy or some kind of shit like that, you know, you're not apt to go and look at your great-grandparents' grave. So outside of the offspring of people, you know, their sons and daughters, they would visit the grave from time to time, some more frequent than others. But then the grandkids might go once every 10 years or on a special holiday or depending on how close they are. But then after that, who's going to ever go again? So who's going to really notice if they just do away with the grave and reuse it? And that begs the question of what are they actually doing with the bodies? And I don't want anybody bringing up the McDonald's having human DNA in it at all. Okay. Because surely they wouldn't do that to us, would they?
No,
Oh,
I
wait.
wouldn't know it.
They wanted us to eat bugs. I don't know. Maybe.
I've got a question.
What's that?
So if there was a mud flood and there's catacombs, why didn't the mud fill the catacombs?
I don't
Was
know.
it
Maybe,
after
maybe,
the mud
In
flood?
question.
Could
maybe
it be that those
maybe the same
catacombs
reason
filled,
there's caves under the sea without water in them.
right?
You
Maybe
know?
some of them didn't get flooded out and they had good, like, you know.
They're under the city.
I don't know if the mud came from above or below. I don't know.
Or maybe that's where they dug out.
All right. I know they
I don't know. It's just like I think Lunch Break makes a great point when he says, you know, these people have this shit under, and because it's under a church, it's okay. Right. But if like Walmart had a thing, hey, we come down and see the ossuary underneath the Walmart and shit, you can buy tickets, and you'd be like, what the fuck you got human bones underneath your house or your building for? What the hell is that about?
Right.
You know,
it is kind of kooky.
You'd start asking questions. You know, that looks more like something a serial killer would do. You know, some kind of a maniac who kills a whole bunch of people and then wants to decorate the place with their bodies and shit. And it's like, that's a subjective opinion, I guess. You know, maybe they had a different, but then there's the piezoelectric effect of the bones too.
Yes.
Like Tom Hanks in The Burbs.
Yeah.
Have you looked at the Moloch statue, Saab, that's in the Vatican grounds? It looks like the legs open up. It's sitting on this cast of bronze. It's like a 500 something. I mean, it's bronze statue. It's in the Vatican grounds of Moloch, the child sacrificing idol.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. And if you look how it's built, I know big statues, they put in sections, but the way this thing is built, it looks like it can go and open up.
Oh, hell.
And it looks, it's crazy.
And what's it made out of? Like bronze?
Bronze. And the Pope,
it's probably
the Pope that it be put in the Vatican grounds, which thou should be no idols before me. Or no.
I bet they fucking use it. I bet
yes.
like a pizza oven for kids.
Where is coming from?
It's like a pizza oven for little kids or whatever. You know, bring your kids to see the Pope. Yeah, right. Get out of here. That dude looks like Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah, guys.
How would you hide the smell of something like? You could probably sense it. You know.
I don't know, man. They got their own shit going on there. They got they control the world basically.
Yep.
If you think about it, even London's sanction to be the crown comes from the Pope.
Right.
That's the Pope is actually the one that gives them that little holy hand grenade of Antioch. You know, the little ball with the cross sticking off of it.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that Monty Python's Holy Grail?
It's been a while, but I have. Yeah.
Remember that, the holy hand grenade of Antioch? And he goes, Brother Maynard, bring us the holy hand grenade of Antioch. And he brings it over and he's like, read us the direction. He goes, thou will pull the pin and count to 3, 3 being the number to be counted to. 4 shall not be counted to, as the number to be counted to is 3. 5 is right out. He's like, yes, skip along. He says, then, after counting to 3, and 3 being the number to be counted to, hurl the grenade at thine enemy, and he be blown to bits. Amen.
So eloquently put.
That'd be a good one for a movie night.
Oh yeah, Holy Grail, hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Probably got all kinds of bits and pieces and artifacts in it.
They're pottery. It's always fucking pottery. That's what they give us. Well, how you doing tonight, Matt? I'm about to get ready to start the video. So what do you got going on, brother?
Doing well, man. Just hopped in. I haven't been active here lately.
Cool beans, man. Well, thanks for being here. See, you thought nobody said cool beans anymore. I do. So
we got
I get to use everything. I get to use everything from the mid 60s up to now. I can say groovy. I can say fly. I can say bad. I can say, ooh, bomb out. You know, I get to use them all because I've been through them all.
Man. I guess you have been through the generations.
Yes. There's a lot of slang that we've gone through. It's remarkable. You'll see it. That's what cracks me up. Motherfuckers go, look, you're just some old motherfucker, and I'm like you're immune to it or something, right? It's coming for you too.
Like
Okay,
the fog.
trust me. Yeah, trust me, it's coming for you too. So hang in there. Remember that. Remember what you said about it. Anyway, we was into the living waters aspect of this. So let's let this go.
Tip tap goes the rain, spitting on my window pane. Drip drip from the trees, sodden earthy and They watched the water, and they watched it closely. Right here on earth and up above, beyond the firmament. Come on, let me show you. Tip tap goes the rain, spitting on my window pane. Drip drip from the trees, sodden earthy and soggy leaves. Splosh splash puddle pools, jumping on their way to schools.
There's a lot of onomatopoeias in there. Splosh, splash.
Yeah.
Onomatopoeia. The formation or use of words that imitate the sounds associated with the object or actions they refer to. The property of a word of sounding like what it represents. Water has many. The interdependent relationship between water and sound is so fundamental to our connection and understanding of water. The rain patters and drums, the waves roar, the brook murmurs and whispers, the puddles of mud squelch, that it is intrinsically woven into the very linguistic code of our language. Many have explored the powerful connection between sound and water. We have Masaru Emoto and his study exploring the impact of sound on the molecular structure of water. We have those that like to play around with cymatics. There is Peter Davey, a saxophone player who invented a device that boils water with sonic waves. The innovative use of sound coupled with water seems to have no end. So much so that in recent times, biologists are discovering that ultrasonic water can even treat the most resistant of infections and heal wounds at rapid pace. And in a future where electromagnetism was harnessed with the utmost innovation, water, sound and frequency had to have a major role to play. And of course it did. They wanted us to know that it did. And not just the water here on Earth. They were telling us to look up and above. They wanted us to know that what they had achieved right here on Earth was only possible because they had studied what existed above. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. Some criticize the King James translation of the Bible for its use of the word firmament. But in the original Hebrew, the word is rakia, which translates directly as firmament. In the New International Version, it is called the vault. In the English Standard Version, it is an expanse. In the Good News Translation, it is dome. What is important, however, is that in all translations, and in the original Hebrew, the notion of the firmament or vault separating the waters above from the waters below does not change and remains consistent. There is water above our realm. The telescope is an interesting instrument, both at once an apparatus for discovery and simultaneously a weapon of deceit. There are two primary types of telescope, the refractor and the reflector. A refractor uses an objective lens, usually a convex lens. and a reflector utilizes a single or a combination of curved mirrors to reflect light and form an image. Many reflector telescopes use either a concave mirror or a parabolic mirror. This is what a reflection looks like in these mirrors. The eyes we were born with, and which we see the world through, are convex lenses. We do not witness the world through curved mirror reflections. This is Jupiter, as seen through a reflecting Newtonian telescope. And despite the slight spherical distortion caused by the reflected mirrors, this is still not what NASA has shown us. Your mind immediately sees a planet, because you have been programmed, since birth, to associate an image like this with the notion of a planet. Just
really carefully programmed with it too, because this is what you see. But what NASA gives you is that really stunning 3D looking image of the thing, and it programs that into your head. So you're just like, oh, well, I don't have as good of equipment as NASA, of course, you know. So
in the same way you associate the moon with a ball of rock by default. But as you can see here, both refracting and reflecting telescopes produce images similar to the Nikon P900. The Nikon lenses have been criticized by some astronomers as lacking the power to really see the luminaries above. But as you can see here, there is not much difference between the Nikon and both types of telescope. And in each we see that Jupiter is radiating some kind of light of its own. Both amateur and professional astronomers present footage such as this.
See, that almost looks like.
But look what happens next. The astronomers here are using imaging processing software to turn their raw images and footage, which display a circular object in the sky above us radiating its own light, into a NASA-style planet. And this type of doctored, processed image is not what we see with our own eyes through these lenses. I am not saying that this is deliberate deception. Astronomy is a practice of its own. But it is very important to never confuse the highly edited images and footage we receive with reality. And it is also worth being mindful of those that are being very manipulative. They are usually the astronomers with the paid sponsorship from magazines and websites. It is also important to note that what we call planets are not actually planets. They are wandering stars, and all of the wandering stars are of a similar nature to the moon. Unlike the rest of the stars above our firmament, their course and journey above us is not fixed and consistent. Their paths deviate from the concentric paths that the rest of the stars consistently make around Polaris. And the reason for this is because they are not located within the waters beyond the firmament. They are very different, and their function is way more occult, and their significance to life here on Earth much more important than we realize. We will be returning to the true nature of the so-called planets and moon later. Back to the waters. Arcturus is one of the brightest stars in the sky. Here is Science Magazine's artistic impression of the star. And now here is Arcturus as seen through a refracting telescope. There is no resemblance. What we see through this telescope footage is really similar to what we see when you zoom in on the stars above with a powerful Nikon camera.
It's almost like it's a cymatic effect, but three-dimensional. Like we're used to seeing it on the surface of water. This is almost like a cymatic effect within the water.
That's right. That's right. It even makes that geometrical pattern and the little nuanced artifacts of the geometrical pattern kind of show up, but you can't make it fully out because the waves are so strong, but you still see it in there, right?
Yeah. Crazy, man. It almost puts you in mind of seeing flashlight,
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
He criticized the refracting telescope because it can produce chromatic aberration. Chromatic aberration is a failure of the lens to focus all color to the same point. The result can be purple fringing, and we see that here. Photographs can suffer from chromatic aberration. Interestingly, the Nikon does not produce the same chromatic aberration when zooming in on Arcturus. Therefore, you could say that the Nikon is actually more reliable and stable. Through both the telescopic lens and the Nikon, Arcturus is pulsing, shifting, rippling. It is dancing geometry. Many will jump up from their seats and exclaim, it's because of atmospheric distortion and light pollution. It's because Arcturus is so far away. But if it is atmospheric distortion, then why do all the stars display their own unique geometry and light patterns? They should all distort in a unified, consistent manner. It is not atmospheric distortion. The stars are pockets of sonoluminescence in the water above. They are self-illuminating, radiating their own light and frequencies in the waters above. Right. Our own convex lensed eyes tell us that there is some kind of water above. We see it in the stars and when rockets accidentally hit the firmament. And, like I said before, just because the so-called planets or wandering stars and the moon appear spherical does not mean they are. They are not synonymous with the stars in the water beyond. They are something else entirely. Our advanced predecessors wanted us to watch the stars. They wanted us to understand that electromagnetic vibration and frequency produce pockets of sonoluminescence in the waters above. They were pointing it out because they wanted us to know that water was the key to unlocking the real potential of electromagnetic energy. They wanted us to know that once harnessed, the ethereal electromagnetic energy could be fused with water, so it could be stored and distributed. And once produced, the water could be manipulated, enhanced, and elevated to a level of new possibilities through the use of vibration, frequency, and sound itself. Their civilization depended on the industry of what we will call the living waters. Their technological advancement enabled them to transform the entire Earth into a power grid. But this grid was only possible because of water. The civilization of the future was an electromagnetic water world. Canals are no great secret. They are found everywhere across our realm, both the great and the small. Most of the great canals around our Earth are connected to the ocean. Salt water is an excellent conductor of electricity. Sodium chloride is ionized. We have the Corinth Canal, connected to the Aegean Sea. We have the Panama Canal that connects both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. The Suez Canal connects with the Mediterranean Sea. And there is the Volga-Don Canal, connecting the Azov Sea, Caspian Sea, and Black Sea with the major oceanic networks. All of the canals built before the 1920s were not built by us or those in the history books. We inherited them. And while the official narrative tells us that the Volga-Don was finished during the 1950s, its construction actually began back in the 16th century. All narrative surrounding the construction of these canals is purely fabricated, and I will show you how much later in our journey. Once you start paying attention, it becomes very evident that most continents and countries feature a combination of canals and rivers that span the entirety of the land itself. The citizens of the old world utilize the oceans and rivers to create a grid of interconnected waterways to provide water to all of their areas of habitation. In order to pass difficult sections and keep the supply going, they would build aqueducts and viaducts. Sometimes these were constructed with the purpose of energizing the water as it passed through and into different areas. And that is why many were designed with symmetrical archivolt structures. The Romans did not build these structures. The entire infrastructure of so many cities found across our realm are designed around canal systems. Look at Amsterdam from above. The precise geometric grid lines here are not roads.
Look at that. That's all canals. They don't look at, and you can by purpose. Look at that, all the way down through here.
Gosh,
Yeah, that's wild.
They're all concentric, like city blocks would be.
And then the Army Corps of Engineers comes in and takes them all over.
Yeah, yeah. Because we're here to help. We're from the government. We're here to help.
Hey, Saab, I want to tell you, I appreciate this because for about the 5th time, it's blowing my mind again.
Yeah, I know, man. And there's so much more. There's so much more.
Right? There's so much I've missed, even looking at it for the 5th time. Like, it's that mind blowing.
Yeah, because your mind will start wandering off, and you're like trying to keep up with this because you're still like
taking in the last points.
Yeah, I know, and it raises.
Appreciate it, brother.
And that's the thing, we have a lot of questions. Will we ever get definitive answers? No, I don't think we will.
Right.
But I think we'll get close. And knowing that what they tell us is a load of bullpucky.
That's right.
There's, that's just, it gives us at least a starting point,
That's exactly right.
And what it does point to is that I think that a lot of these, I think that there was some kind of supernatural help involved, or even maybe the you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just like, because I just can't see. I think they just don't fucking know for real, and they just make up some kind of a story, but it can't go along with what the Bible says. It can't go along with the timeline. Yeah, it has to fit their little narrative, and we already know their little narrative is a bunch of shit.
Well, we do know. Pebbles even made this point, though, is how she said most of the statues were like the old gods around everywhere. Isn't that weird, Howard? And I was like, yeah. So I don't know. And then some were defaced. So yeah, they just I think they made some slip ups somewhere when it comes down to it. And I think it's the old world buildings and the layout, and they can't hide those things.
What do you mean? What's Pebbles mean? I also think someone in Vlad's chat is an undercover male. What's an undercover male?
What?
Yeah,
I've got my suspicions, but
yeah, right.
I'd have to ask her. She's outside smoking.
Yeah, undercover male. If you could tell us what an undercover male is, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I definitely don't think this civilization is the one that built all this stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that too is another, like, the way the news cycle runs so fast these days. It's to make you forget all. It just goes one thing after another. It doesn't stop coming at you, and it just makes you forget what happened. Everything, forget what happened yesterday.
Okay, Pebbles says posing as a woman. It wouldn't happen to be Brenda, would it? Brenda can't come here.
I think there's another one she might be talking about.
What in the hell? They got a factory someplace?
It seems like it.
I just can't get it.
We're gonna get rid of all that wolf bullshit.
Hey, Saab, look, I do believe it's important to come up with these different theories, like the way you perceive things and what you see and the nuances of what you're kind of making out that could be real. I think as like a truth community, there's all kinds of different other little nuances that connect the story, and putting it all together, I think it's kind of important. So this is like one of the major things that I've not seen done with this content.
Well, think about this. Think how this kind of goes along, though. What does it say? It says that there's that the Nephilim, right? And there were giants in the earth in those days, and the mighty men, right, of renown, renown. Perhaps having angelic capability, combined with knowledge that the humans don't have, that they were actually saying, okay, we're going to be here, we're going to run this shit, we'll build these castles, we'll build these nice places and everything else like that. We don't need you, God. Look here, we don't need you. Maybe that's what it was. There's a large gap left out. You'd have to probably get into that library underneath the Vatican to be able to find anything on it, you know? Somebody fucking knows or knew at least.
Have you seen the My Lunch Break where he has the books where it was written about the structures and it says that the corners laid the angels laid the foundation?
Yeah.
Which was really interesting. I'd like to like verify those books. I mean, it's not that I don't trust the guy, but I'd like to see it for myself and read it. I think it would be like awesome.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier on in the show before you came on about that.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe was it on there? Was it on here or was it on Flatside? I don't remember. Someplace I said it, but yeah, bringing it up again. That's interesting. That tells me I need to look into that further.
No doubt.
They are canals, and the sole purpose was to supply water from one area to another. The water was stored and manipulated for a variety of purposes in reservoirs, water towers, pumping stations, cisterns, and other structures. The water also functioned to provide necessary balance, a complex grid of electromagnetic production, distribution, and consumption would generate a lot of heat and magnetism. Water provided not only a balance of diamagnetism, but also ensured the entire grid did not overheat. When looking at all the magnificent generators and other instruments of power from the old world, we can always find water nearby, or the remains of water storage. Sometimes this is hidden primarily underground. Many do not realize that many so-called Victorian cisterns and reservoirs run very far under a lot of our cities, and other times it is a central characteristic feature of these structures, an example of which is what the controllers have redesignated as castle moats. The electromagnetic water grid was not just an energized version of what we are already familiar with in our cities and towns. It was much, much, much more. It was way more magnificent, impressive, and futuristic than we could even imagine.
Right, like, okay, so you build your house out in the middle of the fucking river, but have this for what? A little garden over here? What the hell?
It's a tennis court.
Yeah.
What people don't realize is this right here, Soph, is ahead of our time right now. That's what they're not getting.
Yeah, well, look here. This water is passing through these archways.
We can't even do that today.
Yeah, the magnets.
Yeah.
Magnetizing.
Yeah, energizing it with water. What is it? Hydrodynamics, he calls it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't always get in on his chats or his lives all the time, but I want to shout out Boston Ray too. He covers a lot of this stuff.
Oh yeah, Boston Ray.
Okay.
What's going on? Nobody asked me, and I'm sorry to be here. Well, we're sorry. You know, there's a link up there, Boston Ray. Come on up anytime, brother. Jeez. I just noticed you in the thing. Somebody said something because of Chad.
Yeah, it's kind of hard when you're so overwhelmed from what you're watching.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at these structures. And there's all kinds of thoughts running through my head. It's like that one right off the bat, and I'm like, wait a second, man.
Yes,
you build this structure out here in the water. Let's live out here in the middle of the fucking river and shit. Yeah. And we'll this area right here, which would be perfect foundation for a building. We're just gonna have this decorative little walkways and shit, you know.
Yeah.
So I have to add, you know, you don't go through that kind of effort with hand tools, and shit unless there's extreme purpose to it. That's in my. I mean, that goes with building anything, you know. First, you have to have a purpose.
Yeah, that's right.
Then
one of those purpose would be to last for a lifetime or more. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Man,
how old are these things really? That's what you have to ask.
No doubt.
Bet you the original one burnt down in the 1800s.
That's right.
Oh.
The grid was connected to central, bigger power stations, or what is more appropriately termed star stations. Sometimes these were isolated stations, and other times they comprise entire cities. We are going to have to fly to a higher altitude for this. I need to show you. Hold on tight now and keep your eyes open. Look.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Look at that. Perfect. Wow. No, look, there's no way somebody's just arbitrarily doing this shit all around the world. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Africa, every continent, every place in the world, and you've got this same type of geometry.
Yeah, not a chance.
No, it's
I mean, how would they communicate with each other to know any of this?
Right.
All across the whole world.
Yeah, this don't make any sense. I mean, there's something more to this.
They had,
Sorry, Porter, what was you going to say?
oh no, they were communicating. I guarantee it.
Were they actually speaking though? I wonder. Something
Wow.
else happened. You know that we have synapses in our brains that connect the left and right hemispheres that are not active but should be.
That's right.
And you know what they say after the Tower of Babel, right?
Mhm.
He scattered the nations and confused the language.
Mm-hmm.
I've often thought that perhaps people communicated not so much through verbal means, but through telekinesis, what do they call it? Yes, extrasensory perception or whatever.
Yes.
But telepathy.
Yep.
You know, and I think that that's possible. You know, I think that might be
Yeah.
And then if you have to communicate verbally and everybody's speaking different languages instead of, you know, communicating telepathically, which wouldn't require a language.
That's right.
That's why you can, you know, anybody in the world can have a dog and train it. The dog can understand that person, right? And you can take a dog that's been trained in another language and give it the command for the same thing in English, but because you got the intent and you're projecting the intent, the dog picks it up. That's how you communicate with animals. It's through your thoughts, through your intent. You know, you get them on your resonant level. Like if you've got a cat, it's really interesting. You can get them, you know, like start petting them, tell them all fluffy, and get them just really resonating with you, right?
Right.
When you can think them doing something, imagine them doing something. I've had them do exactly what I imagined them doing.
Mm-hmm.
They pick that up.
So, yeah. Thought energy moving through a medium. Nothing more than a different energy moving through the medium, digital.
Your guest the other night said we all learned the globe in school. Don't call me into that group. I think for myself. Well, I think that the intent behind that comment is, and I agree that when you get put in the government indoctrination center, that is one of the first things they push at you. And one of the first things they want to tell you is that you live on a globe. Now, your experience may be different, but the majority of people have undergone that same experience. You have to think back. As far back as you can remember, whatever classroom you were in had a globe in it. Even though they weren't teaching you world geography or anything like that, they were just, so you'd go up and spin it around and say, hey, what's this?
The education system wasn't meant to build you up. It was meant to break you down.
It was meant to mold you into what they want.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what it's designed for. See, I'd like to know what's the significance of these sharp angled points with how it reacts with the water. What is the key with that? Because it's obviously very important.
Well, in frequency, they have the right hand rule. So that may be I don't know how sharp that angle is. It looks a little bit more than 90 though, doesn't it?
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Yeah. The water could be electric too back then.
I don't know. Is it? No, it's not quite 90.
It's not, is it? No.
Some of them appear to be like this one here.
Yep.
Does where it goes.
There's a purpose behind it though.
But this right here is like
money. I think you're on the money with that.
60 degrees or something.
Yeah. It's like a forced vibration. It has to turn. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying? So it probably something in that corner is affected when it hits it. You
get 60, 60, 60,
Bro,
60.
That's
60,
probably 60. What it is, though, Sav. You're dead on with that. It has to do that right turn, and so it hits that wall with force, and it probably resonates that cavity in there.
Huh. I don't know. We'll play around with it. We'll just let that roll around in the noodle. It'll wake me up in the middle of the night with an idea.
That's right.
I've been to a bunch of these cities.
The sole existence, let alone construction, of these star structures is almost beyond our comprehension. As you saw, they are found everywhere across our realm, with undeviating geometric consistency. A wondrous impossibility. Perhaps they had some kind of technology that allowed them to view huge areas of land from above while planning and building. They were never forced. That is a fairy tale invented by our controllers. The stunning geometric precision and symmetry of the star structures would most likely have functioned to enhance the power of the generators and to etherize the water, or turn the water into living, energized water. We can see from comparing some of these ruined sites, and some left a little more intact, that water would have been present throughout the structure. Before the controllers destroyed and drained most of these structures, they were full of water. They were connected to rivers and canals and the oceans. They were a key component of the entire power grid. The star structures are fractals of symmetrical geometry, just like many of the ceilings of these huge energy generators. And, like the acoustic cavity magnetrons and resonators, the symmetrical sharp diagonal walls would have caused the ions to perpetually vibrate. Old plans and illustrations, which have no doubt been edited or manipulated in some way or another, offer suggestion as to how complex, integrated, and essential the star geometry was to the entire grid. Look at Paris here. It isn't obvious at first glance, but upon closer inspection, we come to realize that the entirety of Paris was itself a star station, or a star city.
Oh, yeah.
And like with everything else constructed in the old world, these structures were at once functional and a celebration of the source of their innovation. Look closer at the star geometry here. Can you see the resemblance? The snowflake. Do you remember what happened in Masaru Emoto's experiment on water? Ethereal vibration expressing itself through water's molecular structure. Those of the old world had perfected this science. They knew the key to releasing electromagnetism's potential was through sound and water. Just imagine what they were able to achieve. Sound, vibration, and frequency was just as integral to the success of their technology as water was. Those of the old world did not hide their adoration for sound. Traces of this love for sound are everywhere. These structures were literally instruments of power. Or as the so-called Goethe put it so succinctly elsewhere, music is liquid architecture. Architecture is frozen music. This is why so many generators, capacitors, power stations, and intermediates feature holes, pediments, dentils, indentations, and complex 3D ornamentation. They were structural openings to manipulate sound waves, the vibrations and acoustics, so they could tune the electromagnetic energy in conjunction with the water in a variety of ways to achieve different results. They were similar to the aerophone instruments such as the flute, the pipe, the recorder, the bassoon, and the trumpet. The old world revered the geometry of the star because it was through the study of the stars in the waters above that they learned the power of fusing electromagnetism, vibration, and frequency with water itself.
Whoa.
They all work harmoniously and in concert with one another. This interconnected and interdependent energetic relationship is what makes the stars and all life itself possible in the first place. Look a little closer at the dancing geometry of the sonoluminescent stars beyond the firmament. Do they remind you of something else? That's right, all of the magnetrons, or what we've come to call rose windows, were designed to mirror the cymatic patterns of ether's vibrations in water itself. Artist Tanya Harris was onto something in 2013 when she turned her attention to studying and recording the silent resonant frequency of churches. By placing water inside of a loudspeaker, she was able to discover the hidden geometry of these resonant frequencies. The results showed that even the silence within these structures produced strong cymatic patterns. And again, can you see the resemblance? Others have applied the same technique and studied the cymatic patterns displayed when bells chimed within the structures. Look at the patterns. Magnetrons. This is why so many magnificent rose windows resemble cymatic patterns so closely. This is why they look like the petrified pulsations of a star. The entire ceilings of many cathedrals also mirror this sacred cymatic geometry. This is why so many of the structures contain huge bells and chiming clocks. The tolling bells would emit powerful vibrations and frequencies and influence an entire area's water supply. The sound would influence the molecular structure of the water, which was then used for a variety of purposes. And that's not all. Many of these structures also housed another wonder of the world, the king of sound, the organ. Have you ever stopped to look at some of the great organs before? These were not constructed by ordinary people in the 19th, 18th, 17th, and 16th centuries. Like the structures they reside in, they are a marvel of elegance and majesty. The most powerful sound instrument in the world. The specific organ sound waves of low and high frequencies would no doubt have enabled those of the old world to manipulate the ethereal energy in ways they saw fit.
Chad, did I boot you?
No, I dropped out for a second.
Okay, yeah. You was up here twice.
Yeah, I know. That's why I went on, put my camera on for a second so you knew which one was.
Yeah, well, yes. What freaked me out was as soon as I got rid of the other one.
Yeah.
Then your camera went off, and I went, "Oh shit! Did I get rid of the wrong one?"
No. I was like behind for some reason, so I dropped out and came back in.
Listen, some of these pipe organs are freaking amazing. I've seen some of these when I was in Germany, and they're just freaking amazing. I mean, there's pipes to it like behind you as well. Up in the other parts of the church and shit. It's amazing. A lot of times I think they built these things around the organ.
Yes, the inner structure is those are actually functional to
Yeah.
the structure. They cause the structure to resonate all the way up to the tips. So I don't know if it's energy that comes down and helps power it all. I don't know exactly how it works, but I did a little deep dive on a cathedral in New York City, and the actual outside structure, if you look at it and then you're on the inside view of it, it's shaped. The organs are shaped just like the outside, so it's in the wall cavity of the actual structure. Pretty awesome stuff. Just
the entire cathedral's an instrument.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're removing a lot of those organs from those places too, like lots of different places, like churches and everywhere. It's like people don't know how to play them anymore. It's like that.
Well, Trump's going to be taking us into a new golden age, and these are apparently from the golden age.
Bring back organs again.
Yeah. Let's make pipe organs great again.
The magnetron rose windows that would not have contained glass would amplify these sound waves, which in turn would influence the molecular structure and properties of the etherized living water. Organs would have had multiple uses, perhaps providing entire towns with specific resonant frequencies for good health and prosperity. The specific functions of the organ have been deliberately hidden and withheld from our knowledge. Interestingly, the official history states that the first organs of the world were water organs, in which the power source pushing the air is derived by water from a natural source or by a manual pump. No doubt a deceptive half-truth disguising the instrument's true interaction with water. And like I said before, most of these structures had areas nearby to store and hold large quantities of water. Many of the structures feature underground cavities or huge cisterns, some of which have been drained and some kept intact. Sometimes the cistern was located apart from and outside of the structure. The controllers have redesignated many of these areas as Roman baths. That's why Bath Cathedral in England is located right next to the Roman baths. The water was also stored in red brick power stations, capacitors, or water towers. Open rectangular sites, reservoirs, wells, and step wells. This is why step wells were constructed with precise geometric patterns. Again, the symmetrical structures here work to encourage oscillation or vibration of the ions. They kept the water electromagnetically charged, and the aqueducts and viaducts would have worked in a similar fashion. It is likely that a lot of the huge electromagnets we see scattered across our realm would have actually straddled passing water, much like we see on the Volga-Don Canal, even though it's unlikely that the Volga Arch is original. and that many roads themselves were constructed during the Great Reset. It is likely that the inheritors of the 19th century were instructed to drain and fill many of the tributaries that once carried water. That's why we see drained castle moats and star stations. Perhaps that's what a lot of the surplus mud we see during this period was used for. Perhaps a lot of homes and buildings were constructed with underground chambers to store their own personal supply of living water, and these areas were destroyed, filled in, and forever hidden with vast amounts of mud during the 19th century. The use of electromagnetism, sound waves, and water would have had endless applications and uses in the old world, most of which we will never know about. But many structural remains do offer a lot of clues. The abundance of remarkable and impossible stately homes, halls, and manors found throughout our realm all point to the mass-scale farming practices of the old world. We travel miles to marvel at their beauty and grandeur. But more impressive than the structures themselves are their gardens and water gardens.
Yeah, man. I used to go to this place in the little town Höchst, where I lived in Germany. And it had, it was called the Bolingaro Palace. And I'll pull up a picture of this place. It is amazing. And if I'm not mistaken, thinking back, there's these two staircases that go up to the house or to the building. And if I'm not mistaken, there's griffins on the posts right there at those steps. I'm going to look here while I'm...
Yeah, there's a lot of griffins and a lot of this stuff. A lot of those stair structures too kind of remind me of that artist Salvador Dali. You ever heard of that guy?
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of his paintings and stuff or pictures or whatever kind of remind me a lot of this type of architectural work.
These are all this geometry in these hedgerows, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's totally amazing.
And what it takes to keep that all up.
Yeah.
We have the Palace of Versailles.
Yeah, that.
Schwetzingen Palace. The Royal Palace of Caserta. Nymphenburg Palace. Herrenhausen Palace. Even today, they still retain much of their splendor and brilliance. But it's when we look at some of the old plans of these areas that we realize just how otherworldly these sites were. They were never constructed to house the elite. They were the farms of old. Look at the gardens. They are cymatic gardens. Even from these old illustrated plans, we can see just how gargantuous these farms were. Microcosmic grid systems, suggestive of the entire larger power grid itself. The cymatic gardens were likely grids cultivated with sound and the living water to grow food, herbs, and who knows what else. Even contemporary scientists openly acknowledge that sound waves strongly influence the growth of fruit, vegetables, and crops. And to this day, some of these structures retain a lot of their glory when viewed from above. The Palace of Versailles, a wondrous geometric marvel, a collection of impossible structures, extraordinary cymatic gardens, and water systems. Let's venture closer into the Palace of Versailles and have a look. Hold on now. Wait, what? This is not the Palace of Versailles. I really need to fix this thing. It's been acting up a lot lately. Where are we? Wait a minute. I recognize this place. Memories from a long time ago. This is Chatsworth House in the Peak District, England. Oh well, this should do. Come on, let's see what we can find. Chatsworth House was completed in 1708, we are told. Its story, much like the story of the entire Peak District, is a fabrication, a complete lie. The place has changed much over the years. It is situated beneath two large bodies of water, the Emperor and Swiss Lake. The water from the lakes is channeled across a broken aqueduct before falling 79 feet and meandering gently down the hills in complex waterways and running right into Chatsworth Estate. The waters feed the estate's own lakes, rivers and streams through a series of runways and a multitude of complex tunnels beneath the estate and the structure itself. Due to the estate's repurposing, much of this remains hidden, but you can see the tunnels quite clearly here, snaking their way down. It is one interconnected water system. Waterways deliver themselves into waterfalls at the impressive rockery before continuing on their journey. All of the water gathers into a central, rectangular front piece, which feeds the Emperor Fountain. The water then continues underground until it pours into the River Derwent, a 66-mile-long tributary of the River Trent, which runs throughout the Peak District. While much of the estate has undergone some serious restoration, which is actually a fancy, deceptive word for criminal gutting and destruction of technology, there are a lot of haunting remains of its former glory. It is important to note that unlike many of the huge energy generators, Chatsworth House was probably partially occupied. By farmers, that is. The central engine was located off-site and has been subsequently removed and repurposed as a larder to store hunted game. This magnificent, gorgeous structure would have functioned as a small generator, which also contained a small engine in its center. It was repurposed as the stables. The horses of the 19th century clearly lived better lives than most of the population. Above, atop of the hill next to the Emperor and Swiss Lake, we can see the quadruple capacitor or water tower. This was repurposed as a hunting tower. But stalking the 105-acre grounds, a visitor with eyes to see might spot some unusual sights. One of which is the half-ruined obelisk hidden away in the tangled overgrowth at the bottom of the hill below the lake. The official, controlled history that visitors receive when touring Chatsworth conveniently leaves out any mention of the obelisk. For you see, the hunting tower was not Chatsworth's only capacitor. The entire estate needed constant water storage to fulfill its energetic requirements and purposes. There are many odd structures dotted around that remain unexplained. And then there is this, the cascade, a true little wonder. The dome, a series of toroidal circles that rise to meet the smaller copper dome. They tread carefully here, making sure they force a distorted history on you. But, as always, they cannot help themselves. They just have to tell you, in their own roundabout controlled manner. As the placard states, water can be made to flow over the roof and out of 13 spouts. Some of these spouts are crafted in the form of immaculate stone dolphins and giant fish. There are even hidden jets in the floor, they tell us. The water is received from the lakes above and is used twice more in its journey to meet the River Derwent below. Once in the South Lawn Fountain, and again the private West Garden. But look closer at what they acknowledge. Each step of the cascade is different from the one below and above it to vary the sound of the falling water. This was allegedly built in 1703. Why would an 18th century people be concerned with varying the sound of falling water? How did they even have the knowledge and skills to manipulate the sound of water like this? And it's everywhere in the estate. The waterways, streams, and rivers all meander gently down to rest briefly at ponds and lakes before continuing their journey toward the River Derwent.
But see, it's almost like they tune the water. You know, that's what it seems like. It seems like they like they're tuning the water or something. I love it. Yes, I just kind of forget it.
Yeah, there's definitely a purpose for it all.
Yeah, you don't just, especially, you know, hey, make sure that this is this size and this goes down this far, and it's purposeful.
Their journey is one of such splendid sounds. As you begin to traverse the labyrinthine passages of our corrupted history, you will inevitably meet the lithographs, renderings, engravings, illustrations, and paintings. How easy it is to lie when there is no photographic or visual evidence, just artistic interpretation. We would never accept illustrations as reliable sources of information today. So why do we accept them as historically accurate? And while these are not to be trusted, devoting some time to browsing their particulars can yield some interesting insights. For instance, the fountain here looks wildly out of proportion. Did it used to jet water more powerfully? And some would claim artistic exaggeration. But if you dig a little deeper, you come to learn that the original Emperor fountain, constructed in 1843, was able to jet water at a height of 296 feet. What? How? This is the 19th century we're talking about. And like I said, they cannot help themselves. Even Wikipedia states that the water power of the fountain found a practical use in generating Chatsworth's electricity. There it is, barely hidden in plain sight. And as we continue browsing these little illustrations, we stumble across it. An old engraving of Chatsworth from above. Look at the size of this. Cymatic gardens, rows and rows of crops, large bodies of water that are no longer there. And again, many would claim artistic exaggeration, the unreliability and inaccuracy of illustrations, and rightly so. But when we look at Chatsworth from above on Google Earth, what is this we find?
Oh.
Shadows on the ground across from the river?
Look at these scars in the ground over here. Something was there that's not there anymore.
No, these are the markings of old infrastructure that was torn down. The markings suggest there was once a bridge here, a bridge we see in the illustration. Look a little closer. An octagon with the clear outline of an old generator. So yes, the illustration is a lie. The estate was much, much larger than depicted here. In 2018, there was a heat wave in England, and the old markings of Chatsworth's former glory started appearing in the grounds themselves. They had to acknowledge it. Sometimes mud and lies are not enough to bury the truth. Chatsworth was a huge farm in the old world. As I said before, the illustrations and paintings are not to be trusted. More often than not, they are used as tools of deception against us. But as you see here, they do have a tendency to backfire on the controllers. Just like with the plans of star stations and cities, our own technological access to tools, such as Google Earth, validate these old plans and illustrations as half-truths. You can bet good money that even the plans and illustrations are only giving us a fraction of the full picture, just like here with the plan of Chatsworth. And it's in Chatsworth that we encounter the first of many acts of barbaric desecration by the hands of the enemy. Chatsworth's great conservatory stood in
You're muted, Sav.
Yeah, Heron Song. This is what I agree with you, man. It's like it pisses me off too, because it's like, why would anybody destroy this shit? Look at that. That's amazing. I just don't get it. Just don't get it in these structures. And they let's tear this shit up. God.
Immense until destroyed in 1920. It was 84 meters long and 20 meters high, and constructed, they say, in 1840 before the establishment of automatic glass manufacturing. Huge, interconnected tunnels and water pipes collected under the ground of the structure to provide heating via boilers and hot water, an engineering feat as impossible as the construction of the structure itself. It was designed by Chatsworth's gardener, Joseph Paxton. Paxton is a phantom that haunts the pages of the history books. Paxton's story is one of fortunate circumstance, daring innovation, and success. It is, unfortunately, a dishonest story, an unconvincing fiction. We are told that Paxton secured a gardening role when he was 20 years old, while working at Chiswick Gardens. And it was here that he encountered William Cavendish, the Duke of Devonshire, who was so impressed by young Paxton's horticultural abilities that he hired him as head gardener of Chatsworth House. Paxton is responsible for creating the following: Chatsworth's Arboretum, its rockery, the Emperor Fountain. You remember, the fountain that sprayed water into the air at twice the height of Nelson's column. The Great Conservatory. He was responsible for cultivating the Cavendish banana, the most consumed banana in the world today, and designing railway stations all over the Peak District. What a talented and productive young man. Paxton's achievements, however, did not end with the banana and the conservatory. The farce doesn't end here. What a tangled web we weave when setting out to deceive. Paxton's success with Chatsworth led him to design the infamous Crystal Palace of London, just in time for the Great Exhibition of 1851. It was originally constructed in Hyde Park for the fair. It was constructed in just over a year, an engineering feat never again repeated. It was made from more than 1,000 iron bars, and its overall mass comprised of over 4,000 tons of iron. The Chance Brothers Glassworks in Smethwick provided the 300,000 sheets of glass. Remember, this was before automatic glass manufacturing. This is the glassworks in which the glass was produced. A simple maths equation gives us an average of 822 glass panes produced every day, 7 days a week, for a year. Right here in this factory. This was Paxton's initial plan sketch for the structure. He went from this to this in a year.
Oh, horse shit.
In a year, huh?
In a year. We went from that little thing looked like somebody scribbled it with a crayon. Where was that damn thing? Let me go back.
Just barely past there.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it. It looked like some kid drew it with a crayon, and then it goes to this. It's like, come the fuck on. I expect you to believe this shit. That's what I just go, oh, bullshit. You know, anymore. I hear this craziness, and I'm like, oh, you stop.
Right.
I mean,
Furthermore,
what?
No worries. I was just to say, there's very little, you know, the simplest of structures that you could build in under a year.
Well, Saab, look, just want to say this real quick. I'm 53 years old, been drawing all my life. I've studied those structures and filigree and stuff like that. And I've even, like, after years of drawing filigree and these different types of, like, columns, can't even begin to design a whole layout for one of these buildings. Not even close. So that's some next level stuff. So
right.
Not normal human thinking.
No. And this, it sounds like it's just a cover story.
Yep, that's exactly right.
It really does.
The entire Crystal Palace was able to house gigantic trees, and they had to board a lot of the glass panes up and cover a lot of the top of the structure during the World's Fair exhibition because the interior of the structure became too hot. Wouldn't Paxton, who designed the Chatsworth Conservatory, know that a huge glass palace would produce immense heat? The entire narrative soon dissolves into stupidity when we realize that a year later, in 1852, they dismantled the Crystal Palace and moved the entire structure to Sydenham in southeast London, where it was rebuilt with 2 additional huge water towers at either end of the monstrous structure. Interestingly, no photographic evidence of the original Hyde Park Palace exists, just illustrations. Wouldn't the structure have been the focus of many photographers during the opening of the Great Exhibition of 1851?
And then to take something like that apart, dismantle it, and reassemble it somewhere else.
Right. Okay.
Ridiculous. So these people right here, these people are doing that.
And that was just the story, though, right?
And how'd they get them all to come there?
God.
Look at these people.
How'd they get them all
Horse
to come?
and carriage, man. Horse and carriage.
It just don't make no fucking sense at all, man.
I don't think paper was even like established as being something that they've even used at that time. It was more like, didn't they make their own kind of medium? And
they were using hemp. They were using hemp.
Yeah.
Constitution's written on weed, dude.
Okay. That's right, brother.
And the carrier pigeon.
Yeah, and the carrier pigeon and
Frequency,
highly trained communications network of some kind. I mean, you got to take this with what we're told, right? And then apply it to this. These people right here. We've all seen Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah.
And all that shit, right? That these look at their clothes even. They couldn't even make decent clothes or whatever. These guys had skirts. What the fuck is going on? And so they build this thing right here, transport these materials. And then if that's not enough, then they take the fucking thing apart and reassemble it. You get to go away with that dumb shit, man. For real.
They're probably coming to adopt orphans.
Yeah. Oh man. This is just more and more bizarre the deeper you look into it,
Imagine walking up on it. Imagine walking up on that. God, that's breathtaking. Anyway.
Yeah, it would, and it's just like I've said, some of these structures in Europe that I ran across. And it's like I'm walking down the sidewalk one night, and this was just in our town in Herx, and there was this place I passed by it, and I didn't pay much attention to it, but it was a little cathedral. Mm-hmm. It wasn't real ornate on the outside or anything. It had this. The crosses are interesting too. They're more like a T than they are like a crucifix,
right?
And so I was walking by, and the first thing I noticed was this big, huge oaken door with the iron studs through it, like you'd see in a castle movie or some shit, right? And so just by instinct, I reached and grabbed the door handle, and I pulled, and it was open.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, wow. So I walked in a little bit, and I looked, and I was like, oh, my word. God lives here. And I mean, the way the place was painted up, the architecture and everything, for as small as this thing was, and of course, the little pipe organ and the pipes back here in the back, I was like, holy shit. And of course, I wasn't onto this yet.
Right.
Not even by a mile. I still believe that this was over centuries and centuries of time, whereas I'm finding out now, and I look back in retrospect, and I'm like, oh, dude, I wish I knew the shit I knew now. When I was over there, it would have been so much different.
Oh yeah,
so much. But still, I have such a good memory of shit like that I remember things, and I'm like, oh yeah, like in fact, I just looked up pictures of that Bolingaro Palace, and it's not a griffin, it's a dragon. Wow. That's kind of interesting too, but it's hard. There's not a lot of photographs of this place, which is amazing to me. So, right. I don't know. I'm going to see if I'm going to do some more digging and see what more I can find out on that shit.
Did you look on Yandex or Google?
I used Bing. I just used whatever the search engine was. I'll get deeper into it later, but I got to be producer and shit like that on here too. It's too much. I can't handle it all.
It's kind. It is highly likely there were either 2 of these crystal palaces in London and both destroyed, or the Hyde Park Palace is just an outright lie. Interestingly, a few years after its relocation to Sydenham, this map of the palace was produced, all designed at the hand of our genius gardener. He struggled with the water supply, we are told. After all, supplying 12,000 fountains, 2 of which shot water 250 feet into the air, and the various cascades would be a difficult task to achieve. But clearly not for Paxton. He made it happen. Interestingly, the Crystal Palace also featured one of these impossible, grand, and spectacular organs. Oh, and if that wasn't enough, while Mr. Paxton was redesigning the Crystal Palace at Sydenham, he was also designing the glorious Mentmore Towers for none other than Baron Mayer Rothschild. Who would have thought that a random, young 20-something gardener would go on to be responsible for some of the most impossible and impressive engineering feats in history? Let's also not forget about his banana. Paxton is an example of the enemy's laziness when it comes to hiding our true history. It is not fathomable or even possible for the citizens of the 19th century to have even built these structures, let alone assign their inception to one sole man. The Crystal Palace and its gardens, just like Chatsworth, were huge farming grids that used the living water in conjunction with sound and electromagnetic energy to cultivate a whole range of wondrous produce. Kew Gardens in London is another example. The abundant electromagnetic energy was able to produce conditions of heat with ease, and the vibrational frequencies encouraged growth. Perhaps that's why Crystal Palace housed a grand organ, utilizing frequencies and vibrations to enable the growth of produce. And that's why the controllers were able to assign the cultivation of the banana, an exotic fruit, to a fabricated Englishman. The technology already established in England was able to grow many things with ease. Among other impressive horticultural achievements attributed to Paxton's genius were the perfect pineapples, another tropical fruit he grew at Chatsworth. He grew enormous lily pads, which could hold the weight of a human. He grew gigantic sequoia redwoods at Chatsworth, which usually only thrive in humid conditions. He grew them with ease, and many of these redwoods remain today, a spectacular sight to behold. It's probably worth noting that among Paxton's many other talents, Wikipedia also tells us that he became quite skilled in moving gigantic trees, as well as gigantic crystal palaces. The largest of these trees weighing 7,000 kilograms. How? With horse and cart?
Right. What are they doing, man? And you've seen wagon wheels. I'm sure we've all been someplace where we see the Conestoga wagons and the buckboards and the things like that they used for horse-drawn transport. And, that seems that it doesn't work very good after, heavy traffic in dirt, especially with weather and rain and snow and things like that tends to make ruts really bad.
Putting the kind of weight that they're talking about on those wheels.
Yeah, big, huge blocks of marble and granite and shit. Holy cow, come on.
Must have been
hope you don't hit a big bump and break your whole fucking wagon.
Right.
God.
Must have been Paxton and Brother Paxton and the company Paxton too.
Yeah, had to been. Always. Jesus.
Why are humans so gullible? They destroyed the beautiful and impossible Chatsworth Conservatory in 1920.
Of course.
As the Duke's son said in a letter to his father, they blew off well over 200 pounds of explosives to tear it down. So it must have been well built. The structures of the old world were built to stand for centuries. What a great shame. The lies surrounding the Peak District do not end with Paxton. The entire national park was one gigantic interconnected electromagnetic water system of the old world. It was most likely one of Britain's primary suppliers of farming goods. The national park boasts one of the largest collections of stately homes halls, and manors, all of which would have functioned as huge farms.
Here's another thing too: is how are you heating these places?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really. I mean, I see
Quite a
these
draft.
pictures, but they look like an afterthought. I don't know.
You think they're using Santa's reindeer or like a whole like fleet of Clydesdales or what? They would
I
have
don't
had
know, man. I don't know. None of this makes any sense.
It was also a regional retreat that specialized in healing. Yes, that's right, healing. The Peak District is home to two large towns, Matlock and Buxton. Buxton is famous for its bottled water, and Matlock is renowned for its historical baths. Even today, both towns boast an enviable collection of old world structures. We see an abundance of old generators, domed pavilion structures, capacitors, colonnades, columns, bandstands, gardens, and water systems. Overlooking the town of Matlock is River Castle. Its silhouetted frame and turrets stand regal in the distance. It is a derelict structure and has been derelict for over a century. The curious public are not allowed near the structure. They tell us it was built very quickly by a Mr. John Smedley. Smedley was, we are told, an industrialist. By the 1850s, he had become the driving force behind Matlock's hydropathic industry. Hydropathy is the practice of healing and curing diseases through the use of water.
Running that frequency in the water. How did he figure out the frequency? What's the frequency, Kenneth?
The official narrative states that Smedley built Smedley's Hydro, which sits on Smedley Street in Matlock. It is now a government council building. Smedley's Hydro was just one of the hydropathies in the region. At one point, we are told, there were over 20 hydropathic establishments in the region. Just look at these structures. Smedley did not build the Hydro. Its structure, an immense water tower, evades his capabilities and the capabilities of all the 19th century citizens. The citizens of the 19th century Peak District inherited all of this infrastructure, and the controllers of our realm knew that they needed to squash any possibility of it being used for its original intended purposes, or for any of the inheritors to discover the truth. It was just too obvious, and soon someone amongst the crowd might start putting two and two together. So they did what they do best and employed a puppet. But unlike Paxton, who was able to achieve fame and fortune for taking all of the credit, Smedley had a different role to play, a role that many puppets in our society today still play. His mission was to carefully control the introduction of hydropathy, only for it to be declared primitive or fraudulent, and then subsequently buried and eradicated as a serious practice. His story is a very similar story to another enemy puppet that has gained a lot more attention over the years. I too once fell for the lies surrounding this man's story.
There were people that came to different spas and stuff that were here in the 1800s, right around this area and over into West Virginia as well. There's a place called Orkney Springs I found out on a drive one day. And wow, what a place that is. And I got to kind of explore the buildings and stuff. It's still active, but at one time, that whole area was, they had it marketed with these different hot springs, and they were each like for a different type of a remedy. And they were running, people would come out there to spend time away from, well, mostly from DC, and to get away from the congestion of the city and the filth and everything like that, get out to the clean country and bathe in these different mineral hot springs that are around, and each one for a different purpose. And it apparently helped a lot of people.
Yeah, I can imagine. Probably a lot of this stuff, helps people, and who knows how it's crazy. They just want to get rid of it all.
Right. Oh my God. And so many of these people from Washington, D.C. reading in the guest book. And you can see these people, you know, in the 1800s and names you recognize too, from if you study history.
Have to go ask Andy Griffith.
Well, they showing up with, you know, unknown female companion. So they were taking their little honeys out there. And,
pretty common around them parts.
Oh, and that's been the fare of politics forever, you know.
The hydropathies were able to accommodate hundreds of patients, and they were tremendously successful in curing a whole host of diseases and issues, ranging from inflammation and bilious attacks to paralysis, rheumatism, and fevers. This was conducted through an array of different bathing techniques, applying dripping sheets as bandages, and fusing electricity, sound waves, and water. There were, as one newspaper reported, electric bells throughout the buildings. No doubt the actual potential of hydropathy was never fully expressed in Smedley's array of hydros, but they nonetheless helped people tremendously. And they were a huge success, so the controllers temporarily profited financially. The hydros healed and increased the well-being of people through water and its fusion with sound, vibration, frequency, and electricity. Look at the electric treatment menu from one of the old brochures. Options for high-powered parabolic reflector, electric ionization, and high-frequency treatment. Smedley also demonstrated the ability of etherized water to heat entire rooms in a profound way. The fernery at the hydro had a water heating system built into its walls and always maintained a constant temperature of 65 degrees, even when the room was filled with a crowd of 350 or so visitors. The temperature never deviated. How was this kind of technology available in the 19th century, and yet today we do not have access to this kind of sophisticated heating? Historians and journalists of the time would deliberately smear Smedley, casting hydropathy as pseudoscience, comparable with homeopathy. Smedley had many battles with the burgeoning medical industry, and after his death, the hydros were purchased and the structural alterations began. Like Tesla, Smedley played his role and successfully introduced the science of the old world to have it debunked, tarnished, and sidelined forever. Hydropathy today is regarded as nothing more than a relaxing spa venture. All of its original applications of frequency and electricity have been eradicated from the practice. Smedley's role-playing allowed the controllers to justify the entire water grid system of the Peak District, successfully preventing the current 19th century and further subsequent generations from questioning its presence. The remains of the grid today are so evident. You can sit and relax to the soothing sound of water falling over the turreted regal Derwent Reservoir, which connects the entire region through its branching rivers and canals.
Isn't it interesting if you get one of those little sound spas, they help you sleep, that it's a lot of the settings have to do with water. You know, like you can set it to be ocean waves or rain,
yeah,
or a babbling brook.
Like any of them.
Those seem to be really soothing to people. Wow, that vape about killed me. Fuck. Oh shit!
Slow down, Tiger.
Old man.
Yeah, they got a lot of that music and those apps do that to have those calming noises or whatever, the rain or the wind or whatever it is that calms people. But
yeah, they got a thing you can buy called a sound spa that you can set it for whatever. They've had them for quite some time.
They got.
You can stroll.
What's that?
Go ahead. I said they have like colored lights on them too, I think.
Oh yeah, I've seen those too. That's the deluxe version.
Around shopping inside of old power stations, and at old pumping stations. And in every area of the region, there are wonders waiting to be discovered. Not only in the larger towns do we find old fountains that once provided the living waters, but also in the remote villages. Tucked away, we find an old dry fountain. Look, the Lord's gift, a bittersweet joy to behold. The citizens of the old world unlocked the power of electromagnetic water by studying the stars above in the firmament. The stars above taught them that the key to manipulating the ethereal energy they harnessed from the ionosphere was through water, sound waves, vibration, and frequency. They honored this gift by constructing domes, by crafting star cities, cymatic magnetrons, and praising the Lord and Holy Spirit for the living waters they received in return. They understood the firmament as both scientists and disciples. Viewer, I am hoping the picture is starting to become clearer in your mind, and you will inevitably start to see things in a different light when pondering all of these impossible structures. It is not a coincidence that some structures like the Colosseum are also referred to as amphitheaters. Have you seen them from above? They look like speakers. Amphitheater is an interesting word. An amp is a unit of electric current, and an amplifier is a device that increases signal, especially microwaves and audio. And no doubt you will start to put two and two together in terms of some of the inventions that we were allowed to play around with before they were discarded as antique in their efficiency. But time is of the essence. We could ponder examples of the old world's electromagnetic water grid system for hours, but I encourage you to get out and hunt down these structures yourself and to document them in your own time. We have to move on. We need to start. Wait, what? You want to know if these came from the old world? Yes, they did. And they are extremely important. The inevitable ticking of the clock. A deeply unsettling instrument, but unavoidable. I need to show you one more missing piece of the electromagnetic puzzle first, and then we will take a closer look at these timekeeping instruments. Come on, let's keep moving.
So it is interesting that all these things are right by water, and it's running water, moving water.
Yeah. Another thing too with all them structures, with the acoustics, how they designed them to where you could be on one end of the room and a person be on the other, and you're talking, you can hear each other as clear as day, like you're right next to each other, or even throughout the whole building.
Yeah, it's even like in our Capitol building in DC, the rotunda does that.
Yep.
Yeah, you can stand in one spot and hear somebody else whisper across the other, all the way across the other side of it. And it's because of the acoustic resonance of that. And it's like, you didn't build that shit.
Yeah.
Come on. They show us these pictures of its construction, but it looks more to me like repair.
Yeah, or painting over something, or
yeah. I don't know. Crazy shit, like the Washington Monument. You know, they show that they stopped in the Civil War because they couldn't get the granite. And then that's why the color changes, you know, halfway up. I think there's more to it, why it does that. It's supposed to be a circumcision line or something, maybe.
A missing piece of the puzzle.
Mercury.
When observing the old world structures today, there is a great sense of absence and alteration. Structures have evidently been altered and changed drastically over the last 200 or so years. And when journeying across our realm and studying these structures, a tremendous sense of absence persists. Something is missing. The concept of ethereal harvesting through these wondrous antennas is not enough. It is not concrete enough to complete the picture. Something else was once present that made the entire technological grid possible. This, of course, is the key technological component of these structures, the engine, and the central mechanisms that made them function in the first place. The engines were, of course, not tokamaks. A tokamak is a crude and base instrument. It is a design of the New World. It does not belong in the Old World. It would have had no place in their structures. Their sophistication and finesse would not have relied on such ugliness, on such primitiveness. What is undeniable, however, are the parallels between the tokamak's fundamental octagonal form and the Old World's love for the octagon. It is very likely that the octagonal formation is an essential component when generating a toroidal vortex. We see the octagon everywhere in the Old World. Octagonal geometry underpins many of the structure's fundamental formations. And the peculiar octagonal structures everywhere are not by mistake. They are what they seem, empty shells that once housed something else. This sense of emptiness is everywhere and remains unexplained. So many towers and domes rise to smaller, hollow domed cupolas. Why are they hollow? Why would an earlier civilization waste so much time and energy constructing such a seemingly superfluous and useless structure? But they didn't, did they? A lot of these empty areas are always directly below the antennas. And although not all of these crucial empty structures are octagonal, most are, and they are always situated in key areas, like under central antennas, beneath domed resonators, in the center of closed, symmetrical courtyards, or
it's always with that octagon too, man. You notice that? That octagon. There's always this octagon area.
Yep.
In some places like cathedrals, they call them a baptismal. It's something else.
detached and just outside the bigger generators. And when reflecting on such perfectly wrought geometry, the absence is tangible. There used to be some kind of cylinder or apparatus contained within this space. Furthermore, we also find various historical relics that closely resemble the Old World structural style. In these relics, we see that empty cylinders or vessels are an integral part of the object. Could these be miniature functional objects that mirror the form of the larger empty spaces we see in the Old World structures? Perhaps a kind of micro household object that enabled access to the wider power grid's energy production? Did the larger structures themselves contain similar cylinders within? In many old photographs, the cupolas and octagonal spaces are already emptied. But there do remain a few images and illustrations that can offer a little insight as to what was present before. In some, we see a type of cylinder, and in others, we see some kind of orb or container. Due to the lack of images, it is hard to present a consistent finding. And so much has been altered, and in ways that are almost impossible to recognize. For instance, this is an 1880 illustration of the so-called completion of Cologne Cathedral. It focuses on the top of one of these spires. The wooden boards here are scaffolding. As you can see, the tops of these spires open, revealing some kind of cylinder. This is a model of the area of the spire that we see in the illustration. It was put outside of the cathedral to give tourists an idea as to just how large these spires are. An impossibility for citizens of the 19th century. The men in this illustration are not completing the final spire of the cathedral. They are removing whatever existed in the container at its apex.
You know, and that's something I've always wondered about. You see all these cupolas on the top of these domes. And it's like, what the fuck? There's no way for anybody to get up there. Is somebody going to go up there and stand and look around or whatever? I mean, what the fuck is that for? I've always wondered that. And it's always on every one of these types of structures. And I think he's right. I think this is where they were dismantling it. And I think it had something to do with Mercury. I really do.
And it begs the question as to how many other aspects and features of these structures open in similar ways. And why do they open? What did they contain? Interestingly, it is the esoteric and occult that provide some clues. Alchemy was an arcane natural philosophy or proto-scientific tradition. Its central focus was chrysopia, or the transmutation of base metals into noble metals. From its inception in ancient Egyptian, Greek, Indian, and Middle Eastern culture, the field of alchemy, we are told, was obsessed with turning base metals into gold, and a maniacal obsession with creating the elixir of life to achieve immortality. We have all heard of the medieval Nicholas Flamel and the Philosopher's Stone. It is a field of inquiry steeped in a rich fabric of occultism, Kabbalah mysticism, and magic. It wasn't until the mid-18th century that alchemy was divorced from its occultism and transformed into the burgeoning field of chemistry. But there was a small occult revival during the 19th century that continued into the 20th century. In 1922, a mysterious text was written by an equally mysterious figure. The Mystery of the Cathedrals by Fulcanelli, a French alchemist, we are told. To this day, the identity of Fulcanelli is still debated. No one knows who he truly was. And like many mysterious figures in the history books, his name appears to be an anagrammatic play on words. Fulcan is a reference to Vulcan, the Roman god of fire, and Eli, a reference to El, the Canaanite word for God. It is evidently a work of one or more Freemasons. But nonetheless, its alchemical reading of the wondrous and magnificent structures we call cathedrals is potently original and offers many insights and half-truths. And it's in Fulcanelli's reading of the statue of Offerus that was taken from Notre Dame Cathedral and destroyed that he begins to offer the reader some truths. As the legend goes, Offerus was a strong giant, but with a dull mind. His intentions were always good. He wanted to serve the most powerful king on earth.
This is really interesting because there's an allegory within this whole story regarding the current and Mercury, but pay attention, this is interesting.
He was sent to the court of a mighty king to serve him. One day, the king, hearing a singer say the devil's name, made a sign of the cross with terror. "Why do you make that sign?" Offerus asked. "Because I fear the devil," the king replied. "If you fear him, you are not as powerful as him," Offerus reasoned. "I want to serve the devil." And so he did, and enrolled among Satan's servants. One day, the servants met a cross by the side of the road, and the devil ordered them to turn around. "Why is that?" the curious Offerus asked. "Because I fear the image of Christ," the devil replied. "If you fear him, you are not as powerful as him," Offerus reasoned. "I want to enter the service of Christ," Offerus exclaimed, and passed by the cross and went on his way. On his way, Offerus met a hermit. He asked the hermit where he could find Christ. "Everywhere," the hermit replied. The hermit knew the type of dull giant he was dealing with, and he knew he would not take to prayer. So he led Offerus to a violent river and said, "The poor people who have crossed this water have drowned. Stay here and carry them on your strong shoulders. If you do this, Christ will recognize you as his servant. And so he did. Offerus spent his days and nights carrying people across the river. One night, overwhelmed with fatigue, Offerus received a knock on his door. It was a child who wanted to cross. Offerus took him on his shoulders and began crossing the river. But as he reached the middle, the river became a furious torrent. The waves swelled, and Offerus began to buckle. In fear of letting the child fall, Offerus uprooted a tree to lean on, but the child was becoming heavier and heavier. Offerus began to fear the child would drown. He lifted his head up and asked, "Child, why do you make yourself so heavy? It seems to me that I carry the world." The child replied, "Not only do you carry the world, you carry the one that made the world. I am Christ. As a reward, I baptize you in the name of the Father, in my own name, and in the name of the Holy Spirit. From now on, you will be called Christopher." Christopher walked the earth for the rest of his days to teach the word of Christ. Christopher, the one who bears Christ for the masses. In his focus on Offerus, however, Falconelli reveals a certain key to unlock another layer of meaning in the legend's symbolic expression. In his enigmatic manner, Falconelli writes, "Christopher stands for Chrysope, who carries the gold. From then on, we better understand the great importance of the symbol, so eloquent, of St. Christopher. It is the hieroglyph of solar sulfur, Jesus, or the nascent gold, raised on mercurial waves and then carried by the clean energy of this Mercury to the degree of power possessed by the elixir." Cryptic indeed, almost impenetrable prose. But let's look at this passage a little closer. Falconelli is stating that in the symbolic legend, Jesus, or Christ, is the nascent gold. Nascent means coming into being. The word's etymological roots stem from the concept of beginning or birth. Nascent gold here, or the solar sulfur, is not just gold, it is gold growing into its full potential. The final section of the excerpt explains why the gold is growing. Because it is being carried on the mercurial waves. The mercurial waves here refer to the metal Mercury. Gold is achieving its potential because of the clean energy of Mercury. Falconelli explains that Mercury's color is an emblematic gray, and that explains why many of the representations of St. Christopher coat him in that color. We will return to the legend of Offerus soon, but first let's look closer at Mercury. Mercury is of the utmost importance when it comes to understanding not only the mechanics behind the old world's technology, but also in understanding our own contemporary time in which we find ourselves traversing the enigmatic landscape of symbols that have shaped our understanding of history and our place in it.
Mercury is really a crazy material, man. You ever play around with it?
I haven't personally, but I think it's cool, that video. I'm sure a lot of people have seen where that guy puts the anvil in the Mercury. That's amazing.
Yeah, I collect it up every so often and come across like a little, or a friend of mine will come across one of these little Mercury switches that's inside of an old thermostat. And that little material in there, I can sit there and shake this like that, and you could feel the weight behind it. You know, it's really something else.
That's right.
Take a bump every now and again.
They've got those all the TV tubes and like stacks for amps had those in it, and they were kind of pricey. They still have them nowadays though.
The old Zenith.
Well, you can amplify the current. Yeah. See, and what's going on here is because there's some kind of an energetic effect between gold and Mercury.
Yes.
And we know that Mercury wants to amalgamate with metals. It doesn't with iron, but it will with like gold and silver and other such materials, and it causes an amalgamation. But like, I wonder if there's like an attraction or something that occurs. You know, what is it? Is it the actual mixing or the potential of the mixing? See, that's what I don't know.
What causes excitation?
Yeah. But anyway, the whole thing is saying that when they got into the stream, the current became much stronger. So is this telling me that the combination of gold and mercury increases the electrical potential?
Yes.
And they put that stigma on mercury. It's like, well, if you break a thermometer open, it's like I told you about that story when I worked at UPS. The box broke open. It was full of like thermometers or whatever it was, and they had us all leave the building. Because it's like it's too dangerous to be in here. It's like,
oh, I know, they're crazy.
It's all
I got an old Torricelli barometer in the other room. That thing's full of mercury, man. So yeah, it's like, I'll tell you what, I'll stay out of Antarctica if you let me play with mercury. All right. I'm not worried about it. It's the fumes you have to worry about.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the symbol for mercury. I see a combination of several different religious symbols together there. Do we not? I see Islam with the crescent moon. I see Christianity.
Right. Yep.
I mean,
like an ankh as well.
Holy shit! You hear that dog drinking?
He is
sure did.
God damn! I don't know who that is. I think it's
Thursday girl.
Awesome though, Sal. Like we used to hear that from time to time, and me and Pelzy would get a kick out of it. I think.
Oh my god! Yeah, it's Peanut. That's my pit bull. Oh my god! She goes to town on it. I think she's done now.
That is awesome.
In the other room.
It's all good.
Surprised nobody's in here with me.
That's right.
Oh, Brandy went outside. That's right. She forgot. She's getting old. She forgot that I'm back here. She'll come back here in a minute.
Yeah. They've got a soul connection to us all. It's awesome.
I'll tell you what, there's something else.
Yep.
Now, and that little moon shadow, she's such a bitch. Oh my God. She is. She is. She's a little bitch. She really is. I mean, I love her to death and everything, but I mean, she is really like, she won't let Peanut get up on the bed. I have to holler at her and smack her and tell her to get back, let Peanut get up here, because she'll growl and bark at her and shit. And I'm like,
somebody's got to hold down the fort.
Yeah.
So the rules are being followed.
I got the old guy. I got Fabio back here. He's
if you don't recognize for the other dogs to be around her, she probably don't let them around when you're around.
Like, it's like she wants to be number one.
That's it. I got one that does
the whole thing. Yeah,
yep.
Yeah. And
if she's
it's hard
close
to get them to understand, look, I love all of you,
That's right. That's right.
I don't have any favorites here. I have favorites in different categories. Let me put it that way,
That's right. That's right.
The symbol here represents the element hydrogyros. Its literal translation from the Greek means silver water. Hydrogyros has many names. It was also called quicksilver. Today it is referred to as Mercury. The alchemical symbol is precisely the same symbol used in classical astrology to represent the so-called planet Mercury. Pure or native Mercury is an extremely rare element in the Earth's crust. It's primarily retrieved from cinnabar, a bright scarlet or red pigmented form of mercury sulfide.
I actually have some of that too. Got it at a rock store. Guess what? It came with a radiation sticker on it. So I don't know if that means anything, but
cinnabar is the most common source ore for refining mercury. Both Wikipedia and World Atlas tell us that mercury is the 66th most abundant element in Earth's crust. In its pure state, mercury is a silver-like liquid. It is the only metal that is liquid at standard temperature and pressure. It has a freezing point of minus 38.83 degrees and a boiling point of 356.73 degrees. It is an excellent conductor of electricity. Its uses are primarily electrical based. It has a primary role in fluorescent lighting. Its other uses include thermometers and dental amalgams. Mercury dissolves all metals, including gold and silver, to form amalgams. The only exception is iron. It is also used in vaccines. Governmental, medical, and pharmaceutical industries declared mercury toxic in the early 21st century, gradually phasing out its use in medicine and leading some countries to completely ban the element. In some countries, it is illegal to trade mercury. Before this, mercury was a staple in certain traditional medical treatments, such as the traditional Chinese medicine. And while I do not dispute mercury's potential toxicity when injected into the body, the concerns surrounding its hazardous potential are largely overblown. All metals, especially when injected and taken in excess, are toxic. High iron, copper, zinc, and aluminium levels in the body contribute towards a whole host of disease, arguably more so than mercury. And yet the governments of our world have not banned aluminium foil. They have not stopped fortifying grains with iron oxide, and zinc and copper supplements are available to purchase with ease and without constraint on the value of dosage a person can expose themselves to with such supplements.
That's exactly right. If you went and got that at any health store, no ID, no prescription, nothing else, there's no regulation at all, you know, and say, hey, I'm going to get myself really healthy and eat that whole bottle of that zinc, man, it's going to kill you.
Yeah.
You know, it don't tell you nothing about that. I don't believe anywhere on it, you know, just says here's your suggested dosage.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, any high concentration of metals in your body that, you know, you don't, your body needs certain metals.
Yeah.
We're electrical, you know, but an overabundance of it is too much. You know, you start, I guess, and maybe short circuit shit out. I don't know, man. It doesn't sound. What's going? Please stop the track. These are not adding up properly. What are you talking about, Valley Parts?
Could there be other undisclosed reasons for demonizing and restricting mercury? Let's look a little closer at this extraordinary element's electromagnetic potential. Mercury is an electrically conductive liquid, and because of this, it has historically been applied to create light switches, electrodes in some batteries, as a gas to create fluorescent lighting, and, most interestingly, it was used, we are told, in lighthouses. According to the mainstream historical narrative, lighthouse keepers were responsible for keeping the massive lens at the top of the lighthouse spinning all day, every day. A spinning lens turning at a set speed made the light flash. They usually achieved this by setting the lens on wheels or bearings attached to clockworks that the keeper would periodically wind. In the late 19th century, some keepers, sick to death with having to keep winding the clockwork, began floating their lenses in liquid mercury. The lens's metal base spun more easily in the mercury, which helped the light rotate faster with less frequent winding. It is a practice still in use in some lighthouses today.
Wow.
It is evident from its structure that the lighthouse's sole function was not just to light the way for ships. It was either one of its functions among many others, or just an inherited act of repurposement. Many lighthouses are constructed in the familiar octagonal structure.
Do you know where you see really a lot of lighthouses at? In Michigan. In Michigan.
Oh, upper North Michigan, or just
all around Michigan.
All around it.
Because Michigan, it's like a peninsula, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, people don't think about it, but, you know, there were naval battles.
Remember how he was talking about the red and the white, how the magnets are colorized?
Yeah.
And most of them are red and white. That's pretty cool.
I think that's interesting, yeah. But, yeah, there were naval battles out on the Great Lakes. People don't really realize that, but there were.
We have the red and white stripes, indicative of power stations. Many still have their antennas, and they were situated right next to the water. It is obvious that they had a similar role as many of the old world's power stations we find repurposed and rebranded all across our realm. Lindau Lighthouse in Germany is a fascinating example. We see all the familiar dentils and holes, suggestive of vibration and frequency manipulation. We see the octagonal cupola, They have replaced the original antenna with New World junk, and oddly, the structure has a clock. And although those of the Old World made the most advanced clocks ever seen, the presence of a clock face here appears superfluous. Perhaps the abundance of clock faces we see on so many of the Old World structures and towers are actually repurposed steam gauges that used to be present to measure the pressure of the energetic water. The intricate and complex design of these lighthouses would have been a feat of engineering for those of the 19th century and their predecessors, unless those that came before the 19th century were technologically advanced, which of course they were. Mercury's role in lens rotation is a subtle example of repurposement. It is very likely that the complex apparatus at the top of these lighthouses were modified as illuminated lenses during the Great Reset, and what existed before operated to extract ethereal energy. For most of the 19th century, gas and oil burners were used as sources of light in these structures. And yet look at the size of some of these lenses. Look at the complexity of the designs. All to house light running on gas and oil? I don't think so. The history of the lighthouse is of utmost importance because it, one, provides evidence of Mercury being present in some kind of apparatus directly located in a cupola, the very spot we see emptied on so many structures today. And two, because Mercury's presence here was to enable the lenses to spin and rotate more easily. And that's very interesting, because look what happens when you apply magnetism and electricity to Mercury.
Whoa.
Isn't that crazy?
That
Yeah, that's wild.
It rotates and creates a vortex, either clockwise or anti-clockwise, depending on the application of the current. A vortex, as you know, is an integral expression of a toroidal field. There are three main types of vortexes: electrical, magnetic, and electromagnetic. In addition to Mercury's electromagnetic potential and its susceptibility to form a vortex when under the influence of current, the silver water also has another unrecognized application. Look.
Oh yeah, he makes a fucking antenna for his TV set or some shit.
Like a 5G tower.
The wire, I guess, to it. Some electrical. What?
Huh.
Amazing.
You can get the nudie channels now, Grandpa.
Well, I
No
mean,
wonder Mercury is demonized and illegal.
Frequency. You know?
amazing.
As you can see, Mercury is able to provide even a homemade television antenna with the ability to convert radio frequency alternating currents to extract a television signal. Antennas can be designed to transmit and receive electromagnetic waves in all directions equally. And you could hypothesize that the orbs on the Old World's antennas contained mercury. But again, it is no secret that mercury amalgamates with gold and other metals. An amalgam is an alloy of mercury and another metal. Mercury strongly amalgamates with gold, copper, silver, and many other metals. The only common exception is iron. The orbs could not have contained mercury because, as you saw, mercury would have scavenged the gold, silver, and copper and amalgamated with the metals. We do not see any evidence of that here. They function strictly as aerial antennas. But if all of these structures contain some type of engine or apparatus, similar to the Fresnel lenses we see in lighthouses, with Mercury continually forming a vortex, then we would have a setup that enabled the antennas to extract ethereal energy and transmit strong electromagnetic signals.
Whoa.
Just as Falconelli reveals in his reading of St. Christopher, it was the Mercury that enabled the gold to achieve its potential. It is highly likely that the absent cylinders, vessels, and containers that were removed from these structures, and which were usually present within the octagonal geometric structures, contained mercury. And it raises the question, if some lighthouses are still running their lenses off of mercury today, wouldn't they still extract ethereal energy? No, they would not. And once again, Falconelli tells us why. As Falconelli states elsewhere in The Mystery of the Cathedrals, the dissolution of sulfur, or in other words, its absorption by mercury, provided the pretext for very different emblems. But the resulting body, homogeneous and perfectly prepared, retains the name philosophical mercury. It is the first-class matter, or compound, which requires only a gradual cooking process to transform itself first into red sulfur, then into elixir, and then, in the third time, into the universal medicine. As Falconelli makes clear, transforming pure mercury into a red, sulfurous state is the first step. And as mentioned previously, cinnabar, or mercury sulfide, is red. And as we see here on representations of St. Christopher's robes, he wears one half grey to indicate mercury, and another half red, which is indicative of the red sulfur. It is the transformed state of mercury that allows the gold, here represented as Christ, to achieve its full potential, or, to keep it consistent with the legend, to reach the masses. What Falconelli is actually telling us is that in able to distribute this clean electromagnetic energy via golden orbed finials or antennas, a special kind of mercury had to be present. This is what was contained within the vessels and engines. And it is likely that it was this unique mercury that enabled the extraction of the ethereal energy from above in the first place. Perhaps it is just a coincidence, if you believe in such a thing, but it is interesting that many of the smaller vessel-like relics we see have markings inside the containers that are red, perhaps a homage to the substance they once contained. Now I know what you want to say. Come on, you are turning a molehill into a mountain. You're basing this off a few passages from the ramblings of a Masonic deceiver. How do we really know that those of the old world were the alchemists of old, and that Mercury was central to their advanced technology? Bear with me. I will expose this so-called Falconelli for the Masonic deceiver he is further down the line. But, like I said before, there are many half-truths here that we can extract. And you must ask, why this cryptic text about the mystery of the cathedrals focuses primarily on explaining the structures and their symbolism in alchemical terms. For you see, St. Christopher is not the only symbolic expression of Mercury and gold's relationship. Like with their adoration of sound and water, the old world expressed this alchemical relationship in many symbols. In fact, the symbols were so prevalent that the enemy had to appropriate them and use them as weapons of control and deceit. Otherwise, the great reset of the 19th century would have failed. The enemy's genius stems from its appropriation, redesignation, and deliberate obscuring of symbols, to the point where tracing the history and true meaning of one symbol in particular becomes a monumental feat. The abundance of lions and eagles we see throughout the old world, primarily in the form of statues, relates to the elements of gold and mercury. As Falconelli states, the lion is the sign of gold. It represents a terrestrial and fixed force, while the eagle represents the airy and volatile force, or the Mercury. When the two champions come together,
you get a griffin. Right?
Yep.
Right?
That's right.
they attack, repel, and tear each other apart with energy until the antagonists become one body, the animated Mercury. The fusion of the fixed gold and the volatile Mercury create the griffin, in which the lion, or the gold, represented the fixed, basic part of the compound, which in contact with the adverse volatility loses the best part of itself, the part that is characterized its shape, that is, in hieroglyphic language, the head. And like the lion and eagle, we see the griffin everywhere in the old world. Like St. Christopher, the griffin is symbolic of the alchemical concoction and combination of mercury and gold that powered the old world's technology. The symbolic association of animals and beasts with alchemy has been eradicated from history, primarily due to the appropriation of these animals as heraldic symbols of royalty and nobility. These are the animals that adorn national imperial seals, as we see attributed to the Roman Empire, the British Imperial Empire, the United States, and so on. An act of post-colonial domination over the old world, the appropriation of its symbolism and eradication of its history through falsified narrative.
Right.
Furthermore, the chemical, alchemical, and cosmological symbol used to represent Mercury is immediately recognizable for its conflation of two of the most widely used symbols throughout history and culture. That is, the cross and the crescent moon. It is openly acknowledged that at one point, all religious symbolism predated its current religious use and application, and belonged to another culture and represented something different during different historical eras. But just because this is openly declared does not mean it makes any sense. Were our historical ancestors and their own historical ancestors really that uninspired that they needed to recycle already established symbols? Or are we not being told the truth once again? The conflation of Christian and Islamic symbolism and culture is so prevalent across our realm that upon closer inspection, it begins to appear quite absurd.
Manhole covers.
Hey, Pebble said that it's on the manhole covers in New Orleans.
What is?
The Islamic, the crescent moon symbol with the star. It's on the manhole covers in New Orleans. Isn't that crazy? Wow.
Wow. Look at the inside of this fucking place.
Oh my Lord. It looks like God lives there, like you said.
That's what I'm saying, man. You go into one of these places and it just like you go, oh wow.
No, it was Michelangelo.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. No, this is like one of his apprentices or whatever.
He's got bored and drew it.
And don't you think it's awful strange that the guy Michelangelo is so close to the Archangel Michael?
Yeah.
I mean, what are we doing here?
Yep.
What's in her name? And there's stories about angels coming down and laying the foundations and helping out and shit.
Right.
No, what?
Mm-hmm.
Little hints.
Yep.
If we are to believe the official historical narrative, that is. If we believe the narrative of the Crusades and Ottoman Habsburg Wars, of the continual warring between West and East, then the presence of the crescent symbolism displayed on many so-called medieval European coats of arms and crests indeed makes no sense. Perhaps this is just more cultural appropriation, but the narrative becomes very unconvincing when we turn our attention to the structures themselves. Why was the Hagia Sophia Holy Grand Mosque originally constructed as the Church of Hagia Sophia by the so-called Roman Empire. It remained a church, we are told, for almost 1,000 years. Its 4 minarets were constructed after the Ottoman Empire took the region. But look at its original design. It does not resemble a traditional cathedral whatsoever. And we see this over and over again. The Cathedral of Cordoba in Spain, originally erected as a mosque in the 8th century, and then converted to a cathedral in the 13th century. We see right here the conflation of both styles of East and West. Interestingly, the structure also features the red and white striped arches, indicative of power stations that we find throughout so many impossible structures. And even without their unconvincing narratives of structures passing between cultures, we still see the presence of both styles in many structures that do not have this narrative attached to them. St. Mark's Basilica and the Doge's Palace in Venice look extremely Eastern, as does the Brighton Pavilion in England. These structures were impossible for all of those, East and West, in the official narrative, unless they had advanced technology, which the narrative tells us they did not. The official narrative tells us tales of architects being inspired and influenced by the structures of East and West alike. But remember, at the time these structures were built, the people didn't have accessible transportation. Journeying between continents and countries took weeks, and they had no cameras to document the structures in order to be able to replicate them with such accuracy in the first place. Why don't synagogues have their own unique particular style, like mosques and cathedrals? We see this fusion of architectural style everywhere. We see water pumping stations that resemble cathedrals. We see water towers that resemble castle turrets. We see cathedrals that also resemble official government buildings. All these structures belong to one whole, unified civilization. That's why we find so many ruined cathedrals in the Middle East. They were destroyed and ruined during the Great Reset and after to solidify the falsified narrative.
Yes.
That's why we see the crescent moon in old 19th century photographs in areas it should not be. This is Brazil. Look closer. Even today, Brazil's Muslim population comprises a total of 1% of the country. So why is this crescent present at the top of one of these antennas in the 19th century? Why is it present in San Francisco in 1905? Why do we see many structural antennas composed of both the cross and crescent moon? In many of the old photographs, we see many structures without any religious symbolism, but just standard antennas. And what about all the unusual antennas we see? Many of the antennas functioned as symmetrical instruments to enhance ether extraction and to transmit energy to other antennas. They were never signs of different religious factions in the old world. They were most likely later designated these meanings to fracture the unification of the old world and its understanding of God. Even the mainstream narrative admits that it was not until the 19th century that the crescent moon even became associated with the Ottoman Empire. And it wasn't until 1950 that the symbol became the emblem of Islam. The symbols of the crescent and cross are much more complex than most realize. In the context of the antennas, they are likely a symbolic homage to the alchemical Mercury that made them function in the first place. But the crescent and cross also have broader implications that are related to the holy, energetic, and ethereal workings of our realm. We will be returning to these symbols later. This is not meant to discredit the meaning of these symbols today. Symbols evolve over time, but this evolution was carefully orchestrated by our controllers. It is also not to discredit God, and this point is crucial. I understand that much of this may trigger some people, but it is imperative to understand that religion, in an institutional sense, was created by our controllers as a means of control. Many religious organizations today are corrupt and use religion as a front when their true allegiance lies with the psychopathic controllers of our realm. Religion was an essential tool of deception to justify the old world's infrastructure. Religion is not synonymous with an understanding of God, faith and prayer. And it is also not to discredit the life of the Son of God. No, and this is crucial, and you will see why later in our journey. And in many a sense, this is what Christ tried to teach people, to see through the deception and manipulation. And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. You see, the scriptures are more accurate than most understand. They are at once historical accounts, instruction manuals for living, and sacred texts of prophecy. There are a handful of texts that are so important that the enemy has been desperately trying to steer people away from them in recent times. And you will see why this is of utmost importance later in our journey. Stay with me, the best is yet to come. And it doesn't end there. The basis for the alchemical symbol of Mercury, we are told, was a caduceus. And we see the caduceus throughout the remains of the old world.
Wow.
Another symbol appropriated by the enemy, adorning many coat of arms, and adopted by centralized, corrupted medical industries that have been responsible for mass crimes against humanity that continues today. It is not a coincidence that the same Mercury that the symbol represented is injected into humans via vaccines to disrupt their entire methylation cycle, resulting in widespread autism and a whole host of neurological and metabolic disorders. The caduceus illustrates clearly how both Roman and ancient Greek mythology serve the enemy as a tool of deception. In Roman mythology, the caduceus staff was carried in the left hand of the god Mercury. The Roman Mercury was the god of financial gain, commerce, communication, and messages. In Greek mythology, the staff is carried by Hermes. Hermes was the god of travelers, merchants, and commerce. The fabricated mythologies allowed the enemy to obscure the caduceus's true association with the elemental Mercury, while also permitting them the usual sick, hiding in plain sight mocking ritual by linking their medical industries with the god of financial gain and commerce. As Falconelli writes, the snake indicates the incisive and dissolving nature of Mercury. This reptile is the aspect of Mercury in its first state, and the golden wand is a corporeal sulfur added to it. It is the philosophical Mercury and the caduceus as its symbol. Not only does the caduceus represent the Mercury elixir essential for the transmission of electromagnetic energy, but the dueling snakes form a spiral coil, representative of the energy pathway, and the vortex. The rod represents the gold and sulfur, but it is also reminiscent of the antennas themselves. And just as the mythologies hide in plain sight, the wings here represent the connection, the communication, the messages, the signals between antennas in the electromagnetic grid, and also the connection between the antennas and the ether itself. After all, the Roman god Mercury was known as the messenger of the gods.
Wow.
You're muted, Soft.
He was fast too. Mercury was fast too. See the wings on his feet, the wings on his hat. It's to represent that he was light on his feet. He could fucking move, you know,
like Flash.
like Flash, right?
And then the government goes and hijacks all these symbols, and then you want to associate it with, oh, that's the CDC or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Look,
and even that guy, the FPD Flores, you know, or whatever.
Look, Pebbles had mentioned that we even down here consider New Orleans the Crescent City, y'all. Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild?
Oh yeah, it's right out in the Gulf of America.
There's probably some hidden gems down there, Sov. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe.
Yep. I'm gonna have to go check.
There's a lot of shit in that water. It wants to eat my ass. I don't go in the water.
That's right.
I'll eat your ass.
Especially down there, you got fucking alligators and shit too. That's you got to contend with those too. I ain't down for that, man. Those are dragons, man. Stay away from
this
those.
whole concept of what is unfolding just it's I've missed so much and seen it. Like probably this will be the 5th time.
Oh yeah, yeah. You get more out of it every time.
Wow.
There's other stuff too, man.
This
Yeah,
is
it
my
is
first.
so
But
captive.
appetite, you know. It's like, look, we already know we don't live on a ball. This is stupid. Not even, you know, we can argue that until hell freezes over. But if you ain't got common sense, you're never going to catch it.
That's right.
This is part of the amnesia. We've been given a collective amnesia, which is and what that means is, you know, the first thing an amnesia patient asks is, who am I? Where am I? What day is it? Well, we've been lied to about all that fucking shit.
Yeah.
We find out that the identity we thought we had, we don't know our identity. We don't really, you know, they've lied to us about where we are. They've lied to us about when we are.
Yeah.
Adding 1,000 years here and, you know, shit to match up some other fucking bullshit decreed by some guy in a robe. You know, I mean, this is some crazy bullshit. How do they get everybody to go along with that? Other than a threat of force or, you know, a monopoly on violence. That's the only way.
Right.
Fucking crazy, man.
And they were good at it.
Oh, no shit. Manipulation. Witchcraft, man. Witchcraft. It is. It's straight up. It is witchcraft. Everybody's under a spell.
Wizardry. Word wizardry.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, everybody's under a spell. Yes. And the thing is that it's starting to wear off. There's a different vibration, and people are kind of seeing through the fucking spell now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, we'll see. We'll see. It's interesting times we're in right now. We had President of the United States on my little old channel last night. I mean, Christ, what else could happen, right?
That's right.
That was amazing.
That was great.
I mean, whatever that was, if that was AI or whatever the fuck it was, dude, that was brilliant. That was brilliant.
Hello. What are you guys talking about?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
What about that dude? He came on and he says, "Well, I don't want to watch a fucking movie." And I'm like, "Well, why are you here? What the hell?"
That's why those people. It's like, why do you go to other people's channels? It's like there's plenty other places to go, and this is the one you pick. I'm gonna go somewhere where they talk about shit that I hate.
Right. I know it, man.
Like take off running and you realize I don't want to breathe hard. What the
yeah, no kidding.
Hey guys, how you doing?
What's up, man?
Hey, you know what I think is really, I've just been thinking about it, and what I find really interesting is that when he came on, just the topic, because we know how into architecture is and his own opinion on his own as a builder and a developer.
Yeah.
But all of this, you know, the top masons, the top people would be, they'd have this knowledge. They'd know they'd have access to that knowledge.
Right.
So I just think he's super interested in the topic. And also, do you know about the connection of Trump's family and Tesla? Have you heard about that?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So I think it's very interesting that not just how good the voice was, the narratives, just how he was dodging and weaving and still remaining quite calm and charming at the same time. Like if that wasn't him, it nearly have to be a double or someone in his close circle to just not only be able to nail the voice and the talking points. It's like he had inside information of what we're doing, and we're doing this and we're trying to do that. And even times when you guys were a little bit cheeky, he still remained very much the salesman. He was very much the Trump salesman.
Oh, yeah.
He was calm, and he got a little bit uppity. Yes. And the other thing, he was so he's very invested.
I want to tell y'all, there was periods of time through that thing that I was really starting to wonder.
Yeah.
I mean, for real, I was like, holy shit, you know. And I'm also thinking to myself, well, even if it is, I'm not gonna, that's not gonna change how I talk to the guy, or about these issues. This is how I feel. You're just another swinging dick as far as I'm concerned. You know, just because you're famous and you got a lot of money and you're in this position of, you know, good for you. Nice.
Well, he was well seasoned in versionary tactics, wouldn't you say, Sav?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, really good. Like, really.
Yeah, he's good at talking around the question.
No, it was like, what was really funny is we did a couple of breakdowns. I was on Roger's channel and I was on PJ's channel, and they were breaking it down. But within a minute or two, they were chiming in and like arguing with it was Trump. They were like, "Oh, but yeah, you said this and you said that." Hey guys, see what you're doing now?
Yep.
It's Trump. And because it may not have been, but the way the interview was conducted, it was an interview of Trump, and it was a really good interview, guys. Too, it was a really, really entertaining piece of media, whatever it was whatever that was.
I know. I mean, there's people right now saying, "Who was it?" Well, I just saw, rare for any impersonator to be on. Why call Sav? Why be on? Yeah, and that's what I'm wondering. I'm like, you know, I'm just under 3,000 subscribers. You know, it's like, how'd you find my channel? You know, what gives? You know, where'd this actually come from? You know, and then I'm starting to think, you know, it could be him. You know, and I don't know. I don't know.
It doesn't matter like which way you feel about him. You can love him, hate him, whatever, indifferent. Right. But it's like he has a way of drawing you in. It's like I kept trying to like dismiss the whole thing.
I know, right?
I kept trying to dismiss the whole thing, and then like I would slowly, I'm like, God damn, he keeps drawing me back in again. Like,
right. What's up? Check this out.
Yeah. So he said because he was behind TFE.
As long as that conversation went on, I'm going to tell you right now, Sav, it convinced the longer-winded aspects of like critical, you know, like dialogue coming out of him was consistent on a weird basis. And I was like, whoa, this could be some like really, you know, real-time stuff going on here.
It had to be some kind of an AI engine or something. It had to be.
Yeah,
well, you know,
I can't see Donald Trump taking time out of his evening to, you know.
It's a sort of do those Sov. He's known for just late at night. It was like 1 a.m. in the morning. Yeah. He's known. He's called YouTubers before, but you know, a bit more higher profile, like with more. He's done it before. He calls into radio shows. He goes on Twitter in the middle of the night. It'd be just like him, but the topic, he'd be so interested in this topic.
Yeah, because of the world stuff.
But he was so invested. It just at the end, he was really pushing. So, like I said, if it's not him, it's someone who really wants to push his agendas, especially when you're talking about Israel. He was so invested and emotionally invested in the topics.
The one thing
really selling it. He was really selling it.
Well, I tried to dig his ego out a little bit too, because I, you know, as I was bringing it around the topic on the architecture, and I says, you know, even your magnificent Trump Tower and other such buildings that we see they pale in comparison to this stuff. What happened? Why do we not do this anymore?
Yes.
Stuff is built to last. And surely, you know, as a real estate guy, you'd appreciate that. And he kind of danced around that a little bit too, you know, like, well, yeah, we got to get a lot of smart people. We got to get some great people that can do that. And, you know, off into the hyperbole of educating or whatever the fuck, you know.
The one thing he said that I noticed, he said was like, what about all them DEI hires flying planes into each other? I was like, that's not something Trump. That would have made headlines if he said that for real.
Yeah. Oh, maybe he can.
I could imagine him saying it though. On the same hand, he does make sort of.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to jump on and just give my two bobs worth about that. Good stuff.
Right on, man. Right on.
Enjoyed it.
Well, go ahead and hang out if you want to, man. We're gonna watch a little bit more of this.
I'll just be watching the background. I've got a bit of work to do.
All right, Luke. Well, thanks for coming up.
Yeah, good stuff, guys. See you later.
Right on, man.
Take care. Bye.
I'm sorry. I do respond to chat. I'm just really occupied with a lot of things all at one time here. What was I supposed to be? He does Twitter. Why not YouTube? Who are we talking about? I don't have any idea. Somebody enlighten me. Let's see. Somebody said I don't respond to chat.
Come up on panel then, man.
I'm looking.
Get a
Hold on,
first
I'm
name.
trying to see if there's somebody. I don't know. I don't know what I was supposed to respond to. It looks like everybody's kind of like, are you the same age as Trump? No, I'm not. I'm younger than Trump. I'm younger than Trump, but I don't have access to the life that Trump has lived. I've had to do hard shit my whole life.
Took away your security clearance.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've done pretty hardcore shit my whole life. You know, I mean, as far as, you know, work-wise and things like that, you know, had a lot of near-death experiences through that, you know. So yeah, it's not the years, it's the mileage.
And it's hiding in plain sight throughout alchemical art and illustration. We see the eagle and the lion. We see the caduceus. And we see similar geometries and objects that adorn the top of the old world structures. And yet it is still difficult to imagine the energy grid.
Look at that.
And even more difficult to imagine is the level of labor required to remove all the engines and vessels, to destroy and hide enough of the old world, and to begin rewriting history in order for the Great Reset to have been a success. What we are seeing in the 19th and early 20th century is the final stages of the reset. There was a transitory period, and like any transition phase, the period still utilized some of the old world's technology that it was trying to phase out. And like I said, the enemy is lazy. They really should have done away with these photographs and footage. Look.
This is just amazing. This is just freaking amazing, man.
You notice how that music though, Sav, when Pebbles was telling me when because she's seen this a lot too. and she was in tears 3 times watching this piece that he.
Oh yeah.
And look, that music fits some loss of that era of time, and that's
it
how
does.
it is. It's awesome, bro.
It does. You know what? I'll get you a link to the artist because he's got a lot more.
I threw it in the chat.
Awesome.
I can put it in the
Yahoo. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Thank y'all so much for that. God bless.
Yeah, he's got some great. It's great music, man. And this instrument, I forget what the hell it's called. I don't know. It's a stringed instrument that he plays upright with it has a spindle on the bottom that rests against the ground or his foot or wherever. Wow. And he uses like a bow type thing, like you would for a violin, but then also plays it like a guitar. And it seems to only have like 3 or 4 strings.
Okay.
You know, or I don't know. Wait, I'm trying to recall.
So is it like he says the Renaissance era that certain instrument was made, and
it's almost like probably I would say I think its origin is Middle Eastern.
Wow.
You know, it's really that music just seems to like I'm with Pebbles on that. It speaks to me. You know, it really does.
Like she says, it feels like a time of loss that's so priceless. And the music. It's
reminiscent. It's very reminiscent.
Look, a really powerful piece, I think.
Look who we got up here. We got Jedi Master Andrew. What's happening, Andrew? How you doing tonight, bro?
Hey, cheers.
Yes.
Am I mute? What's going on?
No, you're good.
All right, cool. Yeah, the Ewarnon thing. I watched that. My non-Flat Earth friend actually suggested it to me. And I watched it. I mean, yeah, it's great cinematography, and the music, as you were just mentioning, is very, very phenomenal. And it's very encapturing. And a lot of people think it's only like 5 parts, but I think there's a lot more to it.
There is. Well, we're going to get into it too, boy.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to get into it. This has got parts 1 through 7, but I know that there's more. Now, somewhere on a thumb drive, and I think I had it. I thought it was on this one that I stuck in my computer up here, but apparently it's not. And I know I have the entire thing, and it might be on my other external hard drive. So I'm going to have to, get off my butt.
Yeah, I think it's available on BitChute and Rumble and like YouTube. I think it's a little difficult to actually access, but
it is. There, and there again, that tells you something. Why? If something is something, if it's something people don't want to see, and all they've done is give you some things to ponder, and that's what I look at. It's like something's going on that doesn't fit what we're told. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you got these structures, and they just don't match what we're seeing. We're told these people riding horses and shit with dirt roads were quarrying these huge blocks of granite and marble and continuously supplying someplace so that they could build one of these fucking things in a matter of just a year or 2 years and shit. Right. And it's like, no, I'm not buying it. You got a population of 500,000. That's men, women, and children. Mm-hmm. Some of them elderly, right? Yeah. Some of these people are elderly. So now out of that percentage that's left, you have to figure how many of them are skilled artisans, or are these people traveling from some other distance, and who's financing them? Who's paying them? This is just some ridiculous fucking shit you hear.
Yeah, and I've worked in construction for a very long time. I know a lot of people have probably done their own little tiny projects here and there at their home, just doing whatever, like just like reinstalling carpet or tile or whatever. But that's not what we're talking about here. This is huge stones that have to be lifted and put into place and leveled and, make level and plumb and all that kind of stuff. So these are monstrosity type of projects that we don't do anymore today. Well, we do some that are not even the same, but building skyscrapers, they weren't doing that back then, but they also didn't have the ability to do that as far as we're aware. Because I
don't. Have you ever seen? You were in the military, so I know that you have probably visited Cologne, Germany.
No, I've never been to Germany. I've been
Oh
to,
my God, no way.
Yeah, I've been to like 40 countries, but never went to Germany.
Oh my God, that cathedral there is insane. It might as well be a skyscraper. Dude, it'll give you vertigo.
Even
In Barcelona, oh my God, that one too. That one is but have you ever been to Europe at all? Been able to see any of this old world architecture?
Yeah, Spain, France, Greece, Croatia, Turkey, Ireland.
Did you get to check out Barcelona?
No, I didn't.
Oh man, that cathedral there, that is really
a wild one.
You get a chance, just Google that.
Yes.
And look at the images. It'll blow your mind. And you're like, there is no way, man. I don't like being up on, steep roofs, much less who's the fuck is putting these cones on the top of a spire and shit. How are they doing this?
So something interestingly enough, I was talking with someone recently on Discord, and he's like, "Oh, I've never been outside the United States." So I was asking him, "So where would you go if you had like $20,000 to spare? Like, where would you go?" And he didn't know. And I was like, "What about Egypt?" He's like, "Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, go to Cairo, see the pyramids." So I started looking up like luxury vacation packages for like 2 weeks. It's super cheap. It's like $3,000.
I was gonna say it shouldn't be 20,000.
Yeah, for a flight to and fro with hotel in a luxury hotel with airport travel and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, wow. So that's going to be my next vacation place I go to. I've been to Africa, but I've never been to Cairo. I've never seen the pyramids. But yeah, that's one of those things where I know you're not supposed to, but I'm definitely going to. I'll say it publicly right now. I'm going to take a piece of that pyramid home with me. I don't give a shit. Like a little, whether it's on the ground or I have to chip it away from the pyramid, I don't give a shit. I'm going to take it home. But anyway,
why so much effort into something like that?
Yeah.
And assuming that it was effort. We're assuming that it was people like us that built this shit. But I think all right, so you look in the Bible and it says that they had that the fallen angels, the watchers, they took wives of the human women and they gave off offspring called the Nephilim. And these were the mighty men of renown. Okay, who are these mighty men of renown? We're talking about these fucking giants. And there's a reason that book is removed from the Bible. There is a book of giants.
How big, according to the Bible, how big were the Nephilim? They weren't like super big.
Well, there were like there now. See, there's a lot of speculation that goes on with this, but I mean, you look at the average height of these bones of these giants that they find on average, and they're like 12 to 16 feet.
12, 14, yeah.
That's pretty big. Now you got to put that proportionately to a regular man.
Yeah, it's like 10 times the body mass.
Yeah, you'd have a bigger head, bigger chest cavity, everything. I mean, the hands would be enormous. And if they had 6 fingers, well, who knows? And also what I'm looking at too is that these offspring of the watchers would be part angel, right? Which would give them some of the supernatural powers of an angel above over mortal created man. So it would stand to reason that that's who became the ruling class, were the Nephilim.
Yeah, my only issue is like how did the ruling class, how did they get overthrown since they were so big and so powerful? It would just be easy for them to wipe out an entire village by themselves, like one person, one giant. The flood.
The flood.
Okay. Huh. But yeah, I sorry, I'm not trying to interject too much here. I just think the Iwarnon thing is super awesome. I've watched it multiple times, and he also he has been courageous enough to actually come back later on. I've never heard the retraction, but everyone has watched it. They said they heard it, and they said that he went back and retracted some of his information that he brought before, and that's commendable. Like,
They
hey,
got
you know, you fucked up. It's cool. Just
No, they got to him. I don't think that he messed up. I think they got to him. That's
well, sometimes people just mess up on their information. They put it out there, and then they realize later on that they're wrong. And I'm not saying that everything he said is wrong. He's only, as far as I know, only backtracked on like 2 things. Aside from that, it sounds pretty accurate to me.
What was the one to remember that he retracted that stood out to you?
Again, I've never heard the retractions. I just heard of them, people saying
okay.
that,
Gotcha.
yeah, people, you know, people that I trust that actually heard the retraction, and it's multiple people that said it, so it's not like a hearsay or a conspiracy or anything.
Well, it'll actually piss you off, kind of, because you believed in what he was saying. When you see it, it's going to upset you because you know it goes against everything that you were taught, and it's really, really frustrating to hear. I was very upset and the only thing it screams is either something he could not refuse and he had to accept, and I think he was verbally that powerful. He was that much of a thorn in their side when it comes to the truth. That's
why when this first came out, man, it was like people that watched it were just like blown away.
That's right.
You know, because it was stuff they'd never considered before. And then people took it a little further and they went into it, you know, like, well, Martin Leakey was already out there looking at some of this bizarre shit. And Michelle Gibson, and this idea of a worldwide cataclysm or even series of cataclysms that took place, because we see these photographs look like cleanup operations. You know what I'm saying? Also the mysterious shit with these cities, you know, like Moscow and stuff. And where are the freaking people at? Salt Lake City, where are the people at? You know, there's these photographs taken in the middle of the day and there's no people in the streets, nowhere. No buggies, no horses, nothing, you know? And it's like, what the hell? Was this just found, cleaned up, and people moved into it? Or what the hell really happened?
Right.
What were these land claims really? You know what I'm saying? There's a lot we don't know. We can't believe anything they tell us, so screw them.
Yeah, as you're referring to, like, there's places like Machu Picchu.
Yeah.
In Peru, and that's what, 14 miles in elevation. It takes like 11 hours to hike up there, and it's just this immaculately built place, and you can see around it there was like farmland and stuff. It's still like these little plateaus and stuff.
Yeah,
people live there, but no one does anymore. It's a tourist location.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck happened? Or also in like the Aztecs and the Mayan civilizations, ancient structures.
Yeah, where did those people go? Where did those people go?
Yeah, why'd they leave?
Brings you back around to these freaking catacombs and these necropolises, ossuaries, where they have all these people, these human bones stacked up and making up walls and tunnels and shit out of them with skulls arranged in geometric patterns and shit. And it's like, what in the world is going on here? Who are these people? Where did they come from? Why are they all stacked in here? What in the hell? And people paying money to go look at them. I mean, that's just bizarre, you know. And like lunch break, I don't know if you ever watch My Lunch Break, but
I have, yeah.
He says, you know, think about this, you know, if it was because it's under a church, that makes it okay, right? It's like, what the fuck? What? No, you know, hold up a second. What if like you went to Walmart and they said, you know, come on, you want to pay some money and come down and see all the human bones underneath the Walmart? Why are there human bones under Walmart? You know, that's what you'd be asking. But this other thing, they don't think anything about it. I'm just like, I mean, am I the only one, or is there, when you see that shit, you wonder, well, where the hell, what? That took a lot of time and effort to preserve those bones. They all seem to be at the same rate of decay. Preserve them and then arrange them into these catacombs that go for miles and miles and miles.
Yeah.
That's just fucking weird, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's like
you're talking about under the Vatican, is what you're saying, right?
Oh, I'm talking about under Paris, under places in Prague, and places in Ukraine, places all over the place in these tunnels, and they're just lined with human bones everywhere.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of them. I just don't know how many tunnels there are in different locations.
I thought there was only just like the one under Paris, but apparently there's one under the cathedral in New York.
Yeah, I was gonna say they just it might be a little conspiratorial because it was in the news, but allegedly they found some tunnels with a whole bunch of that kind of stuff that was underneath a synagogue.
Oh yeah,
wouldn't doubt it.
Listen, there's a lot of shit under our feet that we don't even realize. I mean, I'm convinced of it. In fact, like right where I'm at here, we got caverns and caves all over the place, man. This whole area is honeycombed with caves and caverns.
Yeah, you'd never think that kind of that part of the country would have that. It would be more. I would assume it would be more like in an area such as Nevada or something.
Well, these are limestone caves that are supposedly formed by water. And like we've got an area, well, like just a few miles from here, I have Luray Caverns. And if you want to see what those look like, I have a video on my video section of Luray Caverns. Mike,
I'll check it out. Yeah,
Mike from THC was here, and we all went over to Luray Caverns.
Oh, that's right.
And,
he's in Virginia Beach.
Yeah. He came on here. He's over on the other side of the state.
And by the way, I used to live in Virginia, so I'm very familiar with the area.
Okay, so just a little bit south of Luray, there's another caverns called Endless Caverns. And the reason it's called that is they've never been able to provision an expedition with enough supplies to go far enough in to find out where they end at. So what I'm told is they put some of this dye in the water. And 3 days later, that dye came out in Mammoth Caves, Kentucky.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So apparently this area was at one time all part of an inland sea. And the water, I guess, I don't know what happened, but that's what formed all these limestone caves we have around here. This is why areas down there, Kentucky and Tennessee and shit, that's where some of the best whiskey comes from, because of the limestone water.
I've never heard of that. I do like a little bit of whiskey once in a while, but
yeah, that's where some of the best comes from, is around Kentucky.
It's got to be good shit. You can't get some cheap Jack Daniels or something. You got to get some.
Oh yeah, well, there's a lot of people up here in the hills. They make their own. So
right on. So yeah, I don't want to interrupt. I was just kind of chiming in for a moment, because I think that I'm going to actually be doing the next trivia. I'm going to be doing. I just did one last night on Discord with a bunch of people, and not like the one that you were in before,
right?
Where there's like, well, it's sort of like that, but there's no money involved. Anyways, well, actually, I give away money to the winner, but the next topic I'm going to be doing has to do with religion and ancient technology. I'm sorry, ancient civilizations.
Oh wow!
And technology, all combined into one, and I've got about 40 questions ready to go.
Oh shit!
Yeah, maybe I'll come on here one day and do a little bit of a test run before I do it on Discord, and whoever live streams it can go ahead and do it. But
oh yeah,
anyway,
that'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a cool topic to actually research, because when people actually look outside of what they see on National Geographic and Discovery Channel and all that kind of shit, you start looking at some more esoteric type of topics, such as what is being discussed right now, people start to learn a lot. And then you start becoming more interested in something that is beyond just fucking looking at people's cell phone all goddamn day.
Oh my god, yeah, tell me about it.
One of my biggest pet peeves. And I'm a teacher, and I can tell you that it pisses me off. I'm actually in class right now, but they're on break. So
yeah, everybody looking at their phone on break. That's what they're gonna do too.
Yeah, well, I'm watching. I see their activity.
Oh, you got them on camera. Cool.
No. Well, I'm on camera. But no, my camera's disabled right at the moment.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's right. It's online. Got you.
Yeah. I teach online twice per week and in person twice per week. Tomorrow is in person. It's every other day. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool gig. Doesn't pay very much, but whatever.
Whatever. If you're providing benefit, that's part of the reward, man.
Oh yeah, I can make double. I mean, over maybe triple the amount that I'm making right now. I can make over. Anyways, I'm not going to talk about that, but I do it because I like it. I like teaching people. I like helping people. But
yeah,
yeah, man.
when people can understand things. That's why I like being able to take stuff that, you know, that's really kind of complex and break it down so that, you know, the average Joe can understand what the hell I'm talking about.
And I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I teach electrical engineering courses, entry level electrical engineering courses.
Oh, cool.
Because I don't have a master's degree. They won't let me teach up to the bachelor's degree level.
Oh, well,
so
shame
I can
on
only
you.
teach up to the 2-year degree part. But
You need,
hey, man,
you
I
need
don't
to go
want to.
you need to go into debt and go get that master's. See,
But you're a master
No,
Jedi.
Oh, because I'm a Jedi?
You're a master Jedi.
Well, I mean, that's a little different. You know, I know
Yeah.
how to use a lightsaber and stuff, but that doesn't really help out with, you know, like I can't put that on a job application.
Well, let me ask you something real quick, man.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the TFE?
I still think they absolutely went there.
Yeah.
And I think there's a whole bunch of stuff that hasn't been shown so far. And
Isn't that
I
kind of
think,
odd?
yeah, it is odd. The whole vape gate thing, I don't give a shit. I mean, I talked to Austin on Discord. He's like, yeah, I vaped when I was down there, but that wasn't me vaping. He fully admitted. And then from there, Jaren has done a complete 180, and that's very confusing to me. I don't understand fully why, but either way, I've met Jaren multiple times, and you know, we've done tests together, and you know, recorded and all that kind of stuff. I trust the guy to a certain extent, but something is happening with him to the point where I'm getting a little worried.
Yeah.
And I would still consider him a friend. One of my best friends is an agnostic, hardcore Glober NASA fanboy. I've known him since I was 3 years old, and I've tried talking to him about different subjects like this. And he's so resistant. I'm like, all right, that's fine. I give up. And then, no, we're still friends. I'm not going to just like dump a friend because they have a different cosmological, etymological type of view than myself.
Right.
But yeah, but there's something weird going on with Jaren. I don't know what it is. I don't.
Yeah, look, man, that whole behavior of his was just like off the fucking chain.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, look, I'm looking at, I took personalities out of the fucking thing. Okay. Which was hard to do because I can't stand tune. Right.
Oh, me too. Oh, yeah.
So, you know, I was just like, I'm just going to take it for what I get back on this. Well, first thing I found suspicious was the 24-hour feed that somehow the Starlink went down, which means that they had to remove it from the platform.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we still could have seen, you know, a good chunk of what it was doing during that period of time. There was like 12 hours. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, that was first. But then when people started questioning it in the off the chain reaction, the reaction was the giveaway to me. Was because a rational person would have looked, you know, look, I understand. Okay, I know what you're saying about such and such and this, that, and the other. Let me show you how you're wrong about that. Okay, let me go ahead and present my side. No, just to come off and call everybody fucking retards and your shitty researchers and all this other stuff. And it's like, wait a second, dude, what are you talking about? I called the fucking company to verify, you know, how these trips actually work, how the flights actually work, you know, verifying this shit. I verified that you were actually at the camp by showing aerial footage from the company of the camp alongside you, you know, talking after we'd already seen your body cam footage of you walking in the camp. We pinpointed exactly where you had been walking at, you know. And what he got pissed off, and this is still suspect to me, is when I was like, wait a second, these flights are pretty rigorous. Okay. They go in with people and they come out with people. They don't just fly in and pick people up, especially like 5 people.
Right.
Cut their trip short. These people paid $32,000 a head for a certain number of days in Antarctica. which means that, oh, we got to go back early. Do I get compensated for that day that I didn't get? Which means that the plane that came in to pick them up had people on it for the next expedition. That means that those people got a free day at somebody else's expense. See,
yeah, I asked Witsit that on Discord, and I was like, is he getting a discount? He's like, I have no idea. That's Will Duffy. He's the one that had the expenses being paid for, so you have to ask him.
Pass it along. Yeah, I mean, these are just simple questions that are coming in, you know, that you go, okay, what's up with that? You know, and I'm sorry, that thing with Toon and those shadows where he was ranting to Nathan on the phone, where's the guns, Nathan? You're freaking out like a little girl. And
oh yeah, that was weird.
I was like, dude, I'm surprised they didn't Kubrick his ass for that one right there. You know, I mean, Jesus Christ, way to give up the ghost kid. You know, I mean, also you can do what? Act like an effeminate little man child on a video. Jesus criminally, come on, that guy is just hinged, bro. Totally unhinged.
That was the Brenda coming out in him.
That was right. You never have seen them both at the same time now. Come on.
Brenda, okay,
yeah.
I really hate talking about that guy, but either way, he's a man. I mean,
I'm with you, bro.
Point you have a prostate? Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Did you have one? All right, you're a man. All right.
That's right.
XY. Anyways, I swear, if you go back and watch the Lord of the Rings movies, there's like the old pale troll that had like his eyes, it looked sort of like Sloth in the Goonies. That's what Brenda looks like. I am not even joking around. Like, that's literally what Brenda. It's like horrible. And plus, you listen to him talk, and I'm an atheist glober, and it's like, you're a woman.
That was probably
how many other checklists do we have here? It's like that's why I refuse to ever speak with that guy. And Dave, you actually had 2 debates versus him one time, so I mean, kudos to you for that. I mean, that must have taken some tenacity.
Oh my God, yeah, it did. And it was just like hilarious. I mean, I was just like, is this thing actually for real? I mean, am I actually doing this? You know, somebody's going to wake me up. I'm in a fever dream in a hospital somewhere, in a coma or something, man. This isn't really happening, you know? I'm going to come out of it like Wizard of Oz. I'm going, oh my God, you were there and you were there. You know, it's like, oh shit.
But that was before the fact that we knew that was just straight, you know, troll coming out of that vessel.
Oh, no kidding, no doubt.
But hey, Dave, I didn't want to take over the stream.
Hey, no worries, man.
We're on stuff here, so I'm down to keep watching. I'm gonna
finish this part out right here, and we'll talk about it for a minute, and then I'm gonna
go on mute and turn off the cam for a moment.
I got work in the morning, 9 o'clock. Got about a 3-minute commute. Damn it.
Whoa. Most of these images were taken during the world's fairs of the 19th century and at the turn of the 20th century. Any electrician will testify to just how impossible illumination in this time period and on this scale would be. What an absolute nightmare to wire. But they didn't need complex wiring, did they? How did they have moving sidewalks during this period?
Oh shit, man.
We also see this technology on display in the burgeoning American amusement parks of the early 20th century. There is a reason they called them electric parks. In fact, the reference to electricity can be found everywhere amongst repurposed old world sites, even in the unlikeliest of places. Even in this transition phase of the reset, these environments look glorious. This is with most of the water grid already destroyed. Just imagine what they were able to achieve. So many of the major symbolic icons of our time can be traced back to the Mercury that made this electromagnetic, technological old world possible in the first place. Interestingly, in his reading of Orpheus or St. Christopher as a mercurial carrier, Falconelli takes his Masonic trickery of half-truths and deceptions to the limit. He begins discussing Offerus's belt as depicted by Julian Champagne, whose painting of Offerus hangs in Jean Lamant's mansion, what Falconelli calls one of the most attractive and rare philosophical residences. The painting depicts Offerus wearing a belt stitched with crisscross lines. It is important to note that none of the other famous artistic renditions of Offerus depict him wearing this belt. Falconelli exclaims that the artist did even better than the rest. Under the inspiration of the Hermetic scientist who has commissioned the painting, the artist depicted Offerus tightened by a wide belt at the level of his abdomen. It is this belt, Falconelli writes, that gives St. Christopher his true esoteric character. Listen very carefully to what he states next. According to some documents kept in the archives of the Lallement mansion, we know that Jean Lallement belonged to the Alchemical Brotherhood of the Knights of the Round Table. What we are going to say here cannot be taught. Offerus's belt is the sign that all philosophers recognize as the external mark that indicates the extreme intrinsic purity of their mercurial substance. It is a sign that the old authors called the Seal of Hermes, the Star of the Magi, the Bear Cub, the constellation in which the pole star is found. Comparing Offerus's belt and the Bear constellation by the pole star, or what is known as Ursa Major, or the Big Dipper, at first provides no insight as to what Falconelli is referring to. Is this just a rambling of an insane cryptic mason, or are we missing something? But if you begin to trace the pattern on the belt, then another hidden and familiar pattern begins to emerge within the pattern itself. When documented throughout the year, at each season, the Big Dipper constellation also forms this pattern, the symbol of the swastika. A now infamous symbol of evil, what many do not know is that according to the official narrative, the swastika was one of the most widely used symbols throughout history and different cultures. It is an important symbol in Asian countries, representing Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism. It was used by the so-called ancient Greeks and Romans, the Druids, the Celts, Native Americans, early Christians, and so on. We see it in mosaics, rock churches, bracelets, rose windows, crosses, pottery, clothing, and flags. We see it everywhere throughout time and culture. Interestingly, Swedish and Norwegian power companies used the symbol in the late 1800s and early 1900s to represent electric power stations and hydroelectric stations. This connection cannot be purely coincidental. The task of erasing memory and history is not an easy feat. It takes time. Out of all the symbols, this is the one that the enemy had to corrupt and dilute the most by appropriation. Not just because of its now lost association with electromagnetism, but because, as Falconelli let slip, its original association with Mercury's involvement in the old world's power grid. Like the caduceus' spiraling snakes, it depicts a vortex that Mercury produces in the presence of electromagnetism. The swastika is the vortex. It also represents another vortex, the one below Polaris and the Big Dipper, at the center. The same vortex that NASA has teased hiding in plain sight here on Earth and in their representation of other planets' poles. It is the same vortex that Mercator and others documented in maps and writing, the whirlpool surrounding Rupes Nigra and located at the North Pole. Interestingly, scientists have recently discovered large natural stores of the so-called toxin Mercury at the North Pole. They are worried about it melting and causing toxicity. Of course they are. As Kevin Schaefer writes in the National Geographic article, it turns out that not only is there mercury in permafrost, but the Arctic is also the biggest pool of mercury on the planet. Is this another mocking on their behalf, or is there actually a vast amount of mercury at the north? We will return to this much later in our journey. The noble metals and their original location on Earth are very important, and it is the scriptures that hold the answer. The old world knew. They knew the Earth they walked upon better than anyone else. They knew the alchemical metals, gold, iron, copper, mercury, and so on, could be fused in ways that allowed them to access the ethereal electromagnetic energy. They knew that Offerus, the alchemical mercury, could elevate the Christ, the alchemical gold, and carry him to the masses. It is not a coincidence that the path Offerus carried Christ was across the river, across water. The legend of Offerus is a symbolic and metaphoric totality of the old world's energy system. You have a question, and I have a feeling I know what you're going to say. You want to ask about the maps, Mercator and such. If they have fabricated history, distorted so much symbolic meaning, and lied about those that came before, how can we trust these old maps and accounts of the North? How do we know that Hyperborea is a real place and that there is a vortex in the center? That's the spirit, an important question. Unfortunately, we cannot trust the maps, and I need to show you why. And it's now time to talk about the clocks. For you see, there is another map, hidden and long forgotten, the oldest map of them all. And it's not perfect by any means, but it's all we have. Come, it's time to lift another veil.
I think that's about all we're going to watch tonight, guys.
Awesome.
I want to show you guys something really cool that I got here too. This little device here.
Yes.
See it? And what you do is you set this outer ring, this ring right here in the middle. Let me make myself big real quick. I can show you. Okay. So you set this ring right here in the middle. There's a little pointer on it. I don't know if you can see it.
Wow. Yes.
Okay. And the pointer, of course, it's sticking out right between my fingers right here. It's, right here. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I've got that set for February 11th. And what I can do is take this out and you hold it like so, and you put Polaris in this hole. Okay. Then you move this little lever, this little piece down to wherever the star, what's it called? It's on the Little Dipper, and it's the end point of the little Polaris is the end point of the Little Dipper. So at the bottom corner of the pan, the right bottom corner of the pan, you put this little pointer to it, and then that'll tell you what the time of night it is.
You said the Little Dipper or the Big Dipper?
Little Dipper.
That's a Sigma Octantis, I believe. Something like that. That looks a lot like an antikythera mechanism.
It is. It's pretty cool, isn't it? And
yeah.
There's a tide calculator on the back.
Wow.
Huh. Yeah, you can get these from a company called Kala. They're in Europe, Austria, I think.
I'm gonna buy one.
They make this. Yeah, it's really cool. They're about you can get this and a sundial for like $100.
Oh, that's a good deal. Okay.
And they're really neat, really a neat tool. Let me show you what the sundial looks like. This is pretty cool.
Also makes a good Christmas tree ornament.
So yeah, so it comes like this, right? And what you do is you unfold it like so. And then there's this little, see that little black thing right there? Right there?
Yep.
Okay. That's got a little sight hole in it. You see that?
Yes.
Oh.
All right. So on the outside of this brass ring, or that brass oval that sight's on, are the months. And it goes up one side, January, February, March, April, May, June. Then on the other side starts July, August, September, October, November. So you set it for the date, the month, and like if you're part way, a third of the way, or half a way through, and you set that thing, right? Then what you do is you can put that up so that the sun comes through that little dot, and it will shine a beam onto this little outer ring. Let me see here.
Wow.
Yeah, onto this little outer ring, you can see those little Roman numerals. Oh wait, am I showing you the right one? Yeah. See the little numeral on there, and it tells you the hour of the day. So it's a pretty cool little thing.
Wow.
Yeah. Wait. Oh, yeah. You have to turn that. That's right. Yeah, just like that. Then the sun comes through it. Notice the angle that it's at.
Is that 23.6 degrees?
Yeah.
23.4?
Yep.
Uh-oh.
So that's how you work that one. And that's pretty cool too. Same company. And then it folds back up.
People are asking what the company was.
Oh, yeah. It's Kala. I think it's Kala.com. Let me double look here. I know I've got it in my history somewhere. It'll come up in my search. Let's see.
Well, hey, Dave, thanks for having me on. I got to get going, but I'm going to listen in the background. I got to get going before I start class again. Cheers to everyone. I hope everyone has a wonderful night.
Yeah, you too, man.
Oh, it's probably on this paperwork. All right. Thanks for coming up, Andrew.
Yep.
Anytime, buddy.
Cheers.
Let's see. I'm trying to. Let me see. Maybe if I do it this way, I'll find it for y'all. Oops. No, not Jay. Okay. I know what to do. There we go. Dun, 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 dun. All right. So this will give you, here you go. Is the website. Copy. Let me put that down here. Paste. And I'm going to put it over in the Rumble side too, in case anybody gives a shit. There we go. And yeah, you go to that website and they've got, let me go ahead and I'll share that with you here real quick. I can bring everybody back. Y'all didn't have to go. There we go. So let's see if I go here, stop that screen, present, share screen. There we go. All right. So this is the website right here. And as you go down, see there's the sundial. Oh, they've gone up a little bit. But let's see if they got that. Stop. Let me see if they've got the yeah, there's that. I think where the offer for two of them is where. All right, wait a second. Let's see what happens under purchase. Yeah, I want to get one of these cases. I just have the box still. They came out with the case later, but that's kind of high. But it is coming from, where is that deal where they have with both of them? I know they have it. I know they have it. Let me go back up here. That's the sundial. Damn it. Oh, wait. No, nocturnal works. Oh, yeah, this is even instructions they have on how to work the nocturnal. See what I was saying with Polaris? Little Dipper.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And then you go down here to this star right here in the Little Dipper with that lever. And that tells you the time. So yeah, they even got a whole video on it. A little pricey, but I'll tell you what, it's I don't think something that you're gonna find every day. You know what I mean? And I think that they've got this thing where I don't know how I ended up. They gave me a deal on mine. I got both of mine for $100, but with inflation and shit, I've had them for about 2 years, 3 years. So I don't know. If people are interested in it, you know, definitely go and check it out. I put the address and the web address in the chat. That's how it comes. I saw him use one of these on a show my wife was watching, Outlander, where this woman was transported back to the 18th century Scotland. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. But the girl ended up getting one of those nighttime things.
I watched the first season of that, but I never finished it. I think there's like 16 or 17 of them.
Oh my God. Yeah. It gets pretty crazy, man. Yeah, the whole thing gets really crazy. She ends up having a kid with Jamie and going back to the present and then going back in the 60s.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Finds out that the one chick who's like a witch is somebody that came back from the 60s before she went. It's like this time thing, fucker. I don't know, man. It's really crazy. It's really crazy. Well, I'll tell you what, though, guys, it's going on late, and I got to get up and go to work tomorrow. So, anybody got any closing words?
No, man.
We'll try to finish the rest of this tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then definitely the next day. Awesome. We're got maybe an hour and 20 minutes or so left in this series, and then we're going to start getting into some more of this shit, you know.
Awesome.
I think it's really interesting. It's something that's intrigued me for a long time. We've been kind of sidewinked by this final experiment bullshit and other such distractions, should I say, and kind of got us. I want to get back on track with a lot of this shit, because I think that right now it's really important to understand that we get some kind of semblance of where we come from, what we are, where we are, when we are. Because God, we know we're not getting a straight answer from the academics, so to speak, right?
That's right.
Yeah. All right, then, guys. I want to thank everybody who showed up. I see more have showed up. Fred Johnson, Saddle Bum, everybody. Glad to see you here tonight. Lock Smart. Man, all the usual suspects. Stephanie McGuire, good to see you. Fink Ployd. You almost got me there. Cylon Killer. Let's see who else we got. Shannon Emerson. Austin Murphy, what's going on, brother? And let's see. I think I got pretty much everybody tonight, I think.
I think I could be wrong, but I think Barbara's birthday is tomorrow too.
Oh, well, happy birthday, Barbara. If it is your birthday.
If she's still running around out there, but yeah.
She probably is. She might have fallen out by now, but I'll probably see it on Facebook.
Yeah, I want to give a special shout out to the chat too, and everybody that's like just logging in. If you like this content, look, support Sav, because he's doing a good thing, man. Not too many people out there are making these types of videos. I believe in him. I believe in his work, and all the people that's on the panel too. You know, Bear, good people.
I just want people to break their minds free, man. Break your minds free of those chains that they put them on link by link by link by link, starting when you were just a little kid, and that's how you got to take them off. You know, and pretty soon they'll just bust apart from you, because once you realize all the things you've been lied to, shape of the earth, people going to the fucking moon, sending probes deep into billions of miles of space and getting radio signals from them and shit. Right. And oh my God, all the craziness that they got everybody just believing in. I think now's the time to start shaking people, rattling people's chains, because that vibration will soon break them. Yep. Like a sonic frequency.
That's right.
Because all you have to do is, if you put those questions in your mind and then that's what makes you start to wonder. That's absolutely what makes you start to wonder. So I want to thank everybody for showing up, and everybody be sure to hit that thumbs up and share if you possibly can, if you find it in your good heart to do so. And don't forget, the Lord loves a working man. Don't trust Whitey. See your doctor and get rid of him, because he might kill you. And if you heard the shot, it probably wasn't meant for you. So we'll see you next time on Sovereign Soul Unchained Mind. We're going to finish this with episode 7 of the Lost History of Flat Earth. And we're going to have some serious discussions regarding some theories. So join us next time on Sovereign Soul Unchained Mind. We'll see you then. Good night, everybody.
Hey, how all you glow-tards doing? Just wanted to check in from how you were doing when you all learned about me, when you were just little wee little ones. And And you were too stupid to question anything. And, you know, just wanted to check in and make sure you still believed in me. You still believe in me, right? You better still believe in me. Because if you don't, I'm gonna call you names. Like, you still live in your mama's basement, and you better not breed. That's okay. I know you still believe in me.